Okay, I think this is live. Welcome, everyone, to the final round for the 2025 Rookie Rumble tournament. My name is Adam Selkov, and I was one of your chairs for Rookie Rumble this year. It is my pleasure to put on this tournament in working with everyone involved. I think this is live. Okay. Oh, that is. One moment. That's embarrassing hearing myself. That's okay. I am going to not talk anymore. I'm going to pass it off to Jen and Max, who are going to introduce our final round judges, and then we'll get this thing started.
Thanks so much, Adam. I'm Max Handler, and I'm here with Jen LaPrade. We are the judge coordinators for Rookie Rumble. And so we have a really fantastic panel of judges, and we are going to introduce them one by one. So I will pass it over to Jen, who will introduce our first judge.
Yes, thank you so much, Max. All right, our first judge is the amazing Dennis Kerwin. Dennis is a solutions engineer for Simplicity, an education technology company. He competed for the University of South Carolina from 2010 to 2014. Dennis went on to help coach Eastern Michigan University from 2014 to 2016 and has been coaching William and Mary since 2020. Dennis is a candidate to become a member of the board in 2026 and is also a case writer for the case you'll be competing with momentarily.
Our next judge is Joe Ludmere. Joe is a public defender in the United States JAG Corps for the Air Force, and he's tried over 20 felony cases. He competed in AMTA for 4 years at Washington University in St. Louis, qualifying twice for nationals and serving as president for 2 years. After his graduation, he helped coach Northwestern University to 4 straight top 10 finishes at nationals.
Next, we have Elizabeth Fax, who works as an assistant prosecuting attorney in the Special Victims Unit for the Greene County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. She's worked as a prosecutor for 10 years, during which she has tried over 50 felony cases. Elizabeth competed in AMTA competitions all throughout college at the University of Missouri. For the past few years, she has been an assistant coach for the Missouri State mock trial team, which she has enjoyed immensely.
Our next judge is Nick Beachy, who's a trial lawyer at Gibbs & Bruns, a litigation firm in Houston, Texas. Mock trial is actually how he became interested in being a lawyer. He competed in AMTA at the University of Arizona, continued in law school mock trial at Harvard, and he's been coaching or judging mock trial whenever he can since.
Our next judge is Anat Rajan. He is a 3-time All-American witness from Harvard. He competed from 2021 to 2024, where he earned a national championship, finished national runner-up, and was named as one of the best witnesses at the Gauntlet last year. Anat is now in med school, and when he has a break from learning how to save lives, he helps coach and judge for the University of Maryland.
And our next judge is Jessica McKenna, an actor and writer based in Los Angeles. She's currently preparing to direct her first feature film, which is an ensemble comedy about mock trial. She's currently fundraising for the film on Kickstarter, and so we encourage you to check out her social media for additional information. You may also be familiar with her because she's a regular on the improv comedy platform Dropout, which is really great. I recommend everyone check that out too. And she also co-hosts the improv musical theater podcast Off the Book. She's a proud alum of AMTA as a member of Northwestern University's team. And I'll turn it back over to Jen to introduce our presiding judge for the final round.
So our presiding judge for this evening's round is Michael DiPolito. He is a litigator with a firm in Providence, Rhode Island. Michael's rookie season with AMTA was 17 years ago. In his senior year as a competitor, Michael and his team won the AMTA National Championship. Over the past 12 years, Michael has coached multiple programs to top 10 NCT finishes. Michael joined the AMTA Board of Directors in 2018 and for the past 5 years served as AMTA's secretary. Michael is currently the president-elect of AMTA and will begin serving as AMTA's 13th president in May 2026. So, Michael, our presiding judge, I will turn it over to you to get us started. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Jen, and thank you to our tournament coordinators for that wonderful welcome. Congratulations to our championship trial competitors. It's humbling to be in the company of such a star-studded scoring panel. So I'm both flattered to be judging this round and honored to be in such great company. Everyone's been waiting for quite some time, so we're going to go ahead and just get started. Calling the case of State of Midlands versus August Slaughter. Before we begin with the Rumble, are there any preliminary matters to take up?
Yes, Your Honor. Would you like to hear introductions from the state?
That'd be great.
Good evening, Your Honor. My name is Kobe Ackerman, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by my co-counsels, Mr. Zachary Nemec.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening.
And Miss Penelope Stinson.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening.
Together, we represent the state of Midlands today. Now, Your Honor, the state has a few housekeeping matters we'd like to attend to, but would you like to hear introductions from the defense first?
I would. Defense appearances, please.
Good evening, Your Honor. My name is Isa Kidwai. Today I'm joined by my good friends, Miss Amaya Salter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And Miss Ruby Kelly.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening.
Together, we represent the defendant, Miss August Slaughter.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening. Okay, if I heard the state correctly, it sounds like there are some housekeeping matters to take up, so let's hear from the state again.
That's correct, Your Honor. First, we've prepared a bench book for Your Honor's benefit. This has all relevant documents you may need, including the stipulations, case law, and pretrial orders. Now, opposing counsel has seen this before trial. May we put it in the Zoom chat, barring no objections?
Defense, any objections to putting that in the chat?
No objection, Your Honor. We've seen and approved the use of this bench book.
All right, sounds good. Go ahead.
Next, Your Honor. The state of Midlands invokes Rules 603 and 615, calling for the constructive swearing in and sequestration of all witnesses, barring party representatives. And just for the record, Your Honor, the state has no party representative in today's case.
Okay. Defense, will Ms. Slaughter be present for trial today?
Yes, Your Honor, she'll be with us.
Okay. All other witnesses are constructively sequestered. 615 is invoked.
Next, Your Honor, we'd like to ask your permissions for screen sharing in the courtroom today. Would you like us to ask permission before we do so?
No need to ask for permission, but please say when you are screen sharing. That way we've got it on the written record.
Understood, Your Honor. And when we screen share an exhibit that hasn't been moved into evidence yet, may we presume that that is outside the view of the jury members?
Yes.
Next, Your Honor, just two more matters from the state. First, we'd just like to make a record of stipulation 13. Now, today's case is about a boat that exploded. Exhibit 1 is a picture of that boat, and pursuant to stipulation 13, that exhibit is pre-admitted, and the state will be using it in our opening statements, excuse me.
Defense, do you agree with the state's representation of stipulation 13?
That's our understanding as well, Your Honor.
All right, very good.
Finally, Your Honor, we'd just like to bring the court's attention to a pretrial order. Now, your predecessor has made a ruling on a pretrial motion in limine. There are also some pictures of the interior of the boat, specifically its mechanical components. However, your predecessor has ruled that those are inadmissible under Rule 403, and pursuant to this ruling, no party may question the absence of those.
Okay. Defense, do you agree with the state's representation on what appears to be Judge Crockett's orders on motions in limine?
We do, Your Honor.
All right, very good.
With that, Your Honor, the state is ready to rumble.
All right, defense?
Yes, Your Honor. First, pursuant to Rule 404A2A, we've prepared a notice of intent to offer character evidence form. In this jurisdiction, neither party is permitted to call rebuttal witnesses. Because of that, we've prepared this notice to notify the court as well as the state of our intent to offer certain character traits, such that both sides can offer what is called preemptory rebuttal character evidence. Both sides have seen and signed and approved this document.
Okay. Looks good. Anything for the state to add to this?
Without objection from the state.
All right. Kudos to Miss Stenson for having the best penmanship in the history of the world.
And next, Your Honor, if we could refer you to a relevant precedent in this jurisdiction, it's
Okay.
going to be State v. Monarch. Your Honor, what the court held in this precedent was that because we are electing not to raise an affirmative defense today, we have no burden. The burden remains entirely on the state to bring evidence and prove their claims in this proceeding.
Okay. Does the state agree with the defense's representation of the holding in Monarch?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd just like to also note that according to Monarch, the state may also question the defense's lack of evidence in this case without burden shifting on their 403.
Is that the defense's understanding as well?
That's our understanding as well.
All right. Very good.
With that, Your Honor, defense is ready to rumble as well.
Excellent. All right. In that case, we will begin with opening statements, starting with the prosecution.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
She took revenge on her replacement. It's April 25th of last year, and a man named Nicky Benton is taking in a breath of fresh sea air. See, it's a warm spring afternoon, and he's on board a luxury sailboat, and he feels on top of the world. I mean, he can smell the sea. He can hear the waves lapping around him. He knows this is where he's meant to be. But beneath his feet, danger is already building. What Nicky doesn't know is that somebody cut that boat's fuel line. What he doesn't know is gas is building up right beneath him. What he doesn't know is that one spark is going to turn that boat into a bomb. Nicky Benton dies in that blast. And we're here today because the person responsible for that explosion is this defendant. Because she took revenge on her replacement. You're going to learn what brought the defendant to that point. Evidence is going to show you that the defendant and Nicky Benton, they both dated the same woman. But you'll come to learn that after the defendant got dumped, she couldn't let it go. She just couldn't move on. So out of jealousy, she took revenge on her replacement. That's why we've charged the defendant, August Slaughter, with murder. Now that means we need to prove she knowingly caused the death of Nicky Benton. And we need to do so beyond a reasonable doubt. Now that's the highest burden in our legal system. And it isn't one we take lightly. We're going to meet our burden. And to do so, we're going to ask you to remember three key facts: the breakup, the blow-up, and the bystander. Let's start with that first fact, the breakup. We're going to call Abby Angelo. That's the defendant's ex-fiance. And she's going to tell you that she broke up with the defendant only 2 days before they were going to get married. And that the defendant, well, she took it hard. That's going to bring us to fact number 2, the blow-up. We're going to call Officer Jackson. He's an investigator with the Coast Guard. And he's going to tell you that this explosion, it was no accident. That he found the boat's fuel line was perfectly severed in two. And that he found a pair of wire cutters that could have been used to cause that damage right next to the boat. Now that's going to bring us to fact number 3, the bystander. We're going to call a dockhand named Kai Kalba. And he's going to tell you he was actually working at the dock that day. And not only that, he's going to tell you he saw the defendant right there. And that the two ran into each other. Literally. And he's going to tell you that after the two parted ways, Mr. Kalba, he checks his tool belt and he realizes something's missing. A pair of wire cutters. Members of the jury, we're here today because this defendant just couldn't let go of the past. Now, nothing we do can ever bring Nikki back. But today, you can bring Nikki justice because this defendant took revenge on her replacement, which is why at the end of today's trial, Miss Stinson is going to come before you and ask you not to let her get away with it too, and to find her guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Opening statement from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Permission to proceed when ready?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, Mr. Nemec, members of the jury, he planned to jump ship. He just didn't plan to sink. The plan was supposed to be simple. A quiet getaway, a boat on the river, a chance to start a new life. Nikki Benton was feeling trapped, suffocated and cornered by his girlfriend, Abby Angelo, who wouldn't give Nikki the opportunity to break up with her. And all he wanted was a new start. And in Nikki Benton's mind, the only way out was to disappear and jump ship. And how was he going to do it? It was simple. He was going to fake an accident on the water, fake his death, and disappear for good. You'll learn he got on that boat with 4 bottles of wine, no captain, a snorkel hidden onboard, wire cutters, and a plan to escape. This wasn't suicide. It wasn't murder. It was a plan to jump ship. A plan to make it look like the boat broke down, so Nikki could vanish beneath the river, snorkel away, and reappear somewhere far away from Abby Angelo. But what Nikki didn't plan for was that even though his life was behind him, there was a storm in front of him. A storm that was going to turn a fake accident into a real tragedy. Dark clouds start to roll in. Waves started to crash against the boat, and right when Nikki Benton had everything staged. The cut wires perfectly severed in two. The disconnected fuel line, that's when lightning struck. That's when Nikki Benton's boat exploded. That wasn't part of his plan. That was something he never saw coming. Because he planned to jump ship, but he didn't plan to sink. That's a problem for the state. Because when you bring charges like murder, and you tell a story about Miss Slaughter taking revenge on her replacements, you also bring to court a burden. A burden to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest burden in our legal system. That means if you think there could be any other explanation to now how Nikki Benton died, you can't find Miss Slaughter guilty. We're confident you won't. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear about Nikki Benton's plan to jump ship today. You'll hear from eyewitnesses, people who worked at the dock, who saw the relationship between Nikki Benton and Abby Angelo. How it was tense. How uncomfortable Nikki Benton was around her. How he wouldn't even speak around Abby until he finally got the chance to say why he was getting on that boat in the first place. To escape. And then you'll hear about why that boat actually sank. It wasn't because of August Slaughter. It wasn't because of any crime. It was because a plan went wrong. A meteorologist will explain how that boat had every possibility of being sunk by a storm, how the accident was consistent with wires being cut and lightning striking, how she could have figured out exactly what caused that boat to sink, but how the state didn't want her to. Now, members of the jury, we get it. You might be asking yourself, well, why wouldn't Nikki Benton just break up with Abby Angelo? Why resort to this plan? You're going to hear from August Slaughter today, the ex-girlfriend of Abby Angelo. She's going to take that stand, and you're not going to hear of any plan to kill Nikki Benton. What you will hear is about the type of partner Miss Angelo was. You'll hear about even when her relationships were ended, she wouldn't stop asking about her exes. You're going to hear that she wouldn't stop looking for them everywhere. You'll learn that Nikki Benton thought this plan was his only way to truly escape. When Abby Angelo needed an answer about why that boat exploded, the easiest answer for her was to blame her past, because she couldn't face that Nikki Benton planned to jump ship. She just didn't plan to sink. That's why, at the end of today's trial, my co-counsel, Miss Kelly, she's going to ask that you find Miss Slaughter not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Just a quick point of order to the scoring judges. If at any point in time you need an extra minute to write some comments or fill out your scores, just turn your mic on and shout, and I'll stop things. That said, is the state ready to call its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the state calls Abby Angelo to the stand.
Okay.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Good evening, ma'am. Could you introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Good evening. I'm Abby Angelo.
What do you do for a living, ma'am?
I'm a cellist. I actually play for the Midlands Philharmonic just down the street.
Ma'am, do you know who Nikki Benton is?
Of course, ma'am. Nikki was my boyfriend. He passed away just last year.
Do you know what happened to him?
I do. Nikki died in a boat explosion. Now my ex-fiance has been arrested for killing him.
Who's your ex-fiance?
Her name is August Slaughter.
All right, ma'am. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the defendant. What was your relationship like with her?
Well, we dated for about a year, and then August proposed to me. In the moment, I was overwhelmed and I wasn't thinking straight. I said yes. But the closer we got to our wedding, the more I just wasn't sure about the whole thing.
Well, when did you break up?
It was 2 days before our wedding. And I don't know, I just panicked. I realized I didn't know what I was doing, and frankly, I wasn't ready to get married. And looking back, I probably could have handled this better, but I just didn't have the guts to say it in person, so I called her and I broke up with her over the phone.
Did you stay in touch?
No, ma'am, no, I didn't want to talk to her after that.
So then when did you meet your new partner, Nikki?
It was about 6 months later. I was supposed to be playing a set at this jazz club on 54th called The Basement. And all of a sudden it just starts pouring outside. And there I was with my cello trying to drag it up the stairs, and Nikki came and saved the day. just like he always did.
Ma'am, I want to talk about if the defendant took revenge on her replacement. Did you ever see the defendant again after the two of you broke up?
Yeah. The week before Nikki died, I saw her for the first time in 2 years.
Where?
Well, I was with Nikki and we were just taking a walk by the dock. And I heard this rustling sound in the bushes behind me. So I turned around and I thought I saw August. She was running away and sobbing, and I had no idea what was going on, but I didn't want Nikki to think something was wrong. So I kind of just pretended like I didn't see it and I kept walking.
Well, did you ever see the defendant again after that?
Yes, ma'am. The next time I saw August, it was the day Nikki died.
Ma'am, I know this may be hard, but I'd like to talk about that day.
Okay.
How did it start?
Well, Nikki got this huge promotion at work. And, I wanted to do something special for him. So I took him to the dock for a private boat ride to celebrate.
And when did you get to the dock?
It was around 1 in the afternoon. After we got there, I helped Nikki get checked in at the dock. I remember telling him not to have too much fun without me. And then I kissed him goodbye. I thought I would see him in a few hours.
Did anything happen as you were leaving that dock, ma'am?
Yes. Yes, that's when I thought I saw August again. I was walking towards the parking lot and I just saw August standing there and staring out at the dock where I had just dropped off Nikki.
What did you do?
I didn't know what to do, ma'am. I mean, my mind started going all over the place and I wanted to make sure Nikki was safe. But I just kept telling myself that I was just overreacting and that it was going to be fine and that I just needed to go home. So I left.
Did you ever go back to the dock?
Yes, I went back later that night to go pick Nikki up. But when I got there, Nikki wasn't there, so I just waited. And I waited. But by the time an hour had passed, I started really panicking. I didn't know where he was, and he wasn't answering any of my calls. So I ran over to the dock to see if I could find him myself.
Did you?
No. No, when I got there, I found this dock hand, and I asked him if he knew anything. He told me that Nikki had died. And I was just waiting for him to tell me that it was a mistake and that the boat was just delayed and that he'd be back any minute. He was gone. The boat exploded and Nikki died that day.
Ma'am, I just have a few final questions to ask you. In the weeks leading up to that boat ride, ma'am, were you and Nikki Benton fighting?
No, ma'am, no. We were super excited about his promotion and we were talking about the vacations we could plan.
Did Nikki Benton ever indicate to you that he was going to run away?
No, ma'am, no.
Thank you, Miss Angelo. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Miss Angelo.
Good evening.
I want to talk about what you're telling the ladies and gentlemen about Miss Slaughter today, all right?
Okay.
Ma'am, you'd agree with me that thinking you see someone and actually seeing them are two very different things.
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. This certainly isn't argumentative. This is asking the witness her opinion on whether or not thinking you see someone and actually seeing them are different, Your Honor. Certainly, we haven't passed that threshold of being argumentative.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Angelo, you'd agree with me that thinking you see someone and actually seeing them are two very different things.
Sure, ma'am.
Let's start with what you're telling us you thought you saw. Ma'am, even after you stopped going to the spots you spent with August Slaughter, you thought you saw August Slaughter in a parking lot once on April 18th. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Even after you tried to avoid her best you could, you thought you saw her standing at the docks on April 25th.
Yes, it looked exactly like her.
Ma'am, I want to walk the jury through what you actually saw. April 18th, ma'am. You told us you and Nikki were taking a walk when you saw August in the bushes.
We were taking a walk, and then I heard this rustling sound in the bushes. And then later, when we were leaving, I saw August run by, and she looked like she was crying.
That's right, ma'am. Just to be clear, when you claim you saw August, you were in your car.
Yes, we were getting ready to leave.
You were looking out the rearview mirror.
Yes.
Ma'am, you're telling us you were ready to leave. You were actively driving away when you saw this person.
Yeah, we were getting ready to leave. That's right.
Ma'am, what you actually saw from a moving vehicle was a blurry figure in a parking lot.
I mean, it looked exactly like August to me. Same height, same build, exactly like August.
Ma'am, you mentioned her height, her build. You didn't see her face, did you?
I thought it was August.
Ma'am, but I want to be clear about what you saw and what you didn't see. And you didn't see her face, did you?
It was pretty quick, yes.
Ma'am, redirecting you back to my question. The answer is no. You didn't see that person's face.
No, I did not.
Like you said, ma'am, it was only for a couple of seconds.
Yes.
You actually can't be certain that it was August Slaughter that you saw.
Can't be 100% certain, no.
April 25th, ma'am, you were all the way across the docks.
Yes.
Ma'am, the person you saw standing up, you say you saw their height,
Yes.
their build, ma'am?
Yes.
You could tell it was a woman?
Yes, ma'am.
You could tell she had black hair?
Yes.
Once again, ma'am, you couldn't see that person's face.
Not clearly. No.
Ma'am, what you actually saw was a woman with black hair standing outside.
Yes.
Ma'am, I want to talk about the day that Nikki Benton passed away. Ma'am, April 25th. It's a pretty special day for you and Nikki.
Sure.
Ma'am, it's your anniversary.
Yes.
Ma'am, whenever you dropped Nikki Benton off at the docks that day, well, you weren't talking to him about your anniversary, were you?
Well, we were going to celebrate later. That was for Nikki's big promotion.
Ma'am, but when you were at that docks, dropping Nikki off, the truth is you kept asking questions about August Slaughter.
To the dockhand, yes.
Ma'am, you spent all of your time dropping Nikki off, asking every question about your ex that you could think of.
Yes, I had seen her the week earlier, and I wanted to make sure Nikki was going to be safe.
Ma'am, you asked these questions to the point that, to you, you felt you were making Nikki uncomfortable.
Yes, I was asking a lot of security questions, and I thought I should stop.
To you, ma'am, you thought you might have been scaring her.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. We're asking the witness for her to testify what she observed, what she felt she was doing. We're not asking her to say, was Nikki Benton scared? We're asking the witness if she felt like she was making Nikki Benton scared. This is cross-examination, Your Honor. She's free to say no if she doesn't believe she did that.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. Inherently, this question is speculative. Regardless of whether or not this is her personal belief, she's speculating as to how Nikki Benton felt. And that is speculation, Your Honor, and is inadmissible.
Last shot from the
Brief-
defense, then I'll rule.
Yes, Your Honor. Like Ms. Stinson just said, this is based on her perception, Your Honor. That's allowed. Witnesses are allowed to testify to their opinions if it's based on their rationally based perception.
Brief response on those grounds, Your Honor.
Very brief.
Your Honor, whether or not someone is scared or uncomfortable is not something that a witness can testify to based on their rational perception. There's more foundation that opposing counsel would need to lay in order for that witness to come to that conclusion.
Well, what wasn't the question, though? It wasn't calling for an individual was scared. It was going towards the intent of the witness, not whether, in fact, the person was scared. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, Your Honor. The specific verbiage of the question was to you with those questions. You thought you might have been scaring her.
Based on the phrasing of the question, I'm going to overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. To you, Miss Angelo, with the questions you were asking, you thought you might have been scaring her.
Yes, I told myself I needed to chill out a little bit.
Ma'am, let's talk about why Nikki Benton was on that boat in the first place. Miss Angelo, you told this jury that Nikki Benton got on that boat to celebrate a job promotion. Do I have that right?
Yes, no, I booked the boat ride for him because he got a huge promotion at work. That's right.
Ma'am, you were standing right next to Nikki Benton when he filled out the charter paperwork for the boat on April 18th, weren't you?
Yes,
You saw him writing why he planned to charter the boat.
yes, I think he wrote escape or something, to escape from all the hard work he had to do to get to that promotion.
Ma'am, we'll get there in just a moment. You saw him write what he planned to bring on the boat.
I did.
You'd recognize that paperwork if I were to show it to you today?
I would.
Your Honor, at this time, we'll be displaying Exhibit 10.
Okay.
Miss Angelo, this is the charter you watched Nikki Benton fill out.
That's right.
You'd agree that blue pen is Nikki Benton's writing.
Yes, ma'am.
That black pen is the captain of the docks writing, ma'am.
Yes,
Appears to be fair and accurate.
yes.
Your Honor, defense moves Exhibit 10 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Hearsay as to the content of this document.
Response, Your Honor.
First, I just want some clarity on the objection. Are you saying as to the document in its entirety?
Yes, Your Honor. All of the words that are in blue we're objecting to.
Okay. Response to that?
Yes, Your Honor. There are quite a few of them on here, so we'll go top to bottom.
Sure.
Starting with escape, Your Honor. Now, if you look at the words next to it, it says charter purpose or the intent for booking the charter. Now, I asked Miss Angelo, I said, you saw him writing why he planned to charter the boat, and his answer to that prompt was to escape. That shows his intent for chartering the boat. That falls under an exception 8033. That second line, Nikki Cameron Benton, Your Honor, that's not a fact in contention today. We're not using that for the truth of the matter asserted. We're fine with constructive limitation for that line. As for the bottom ones, extra security, that's a request, Your Honor, doesn't have any truth value. Once again, we're fine with a constructive limitation. Now, as for that list, blanket, wine, ×4 bottles, and snorkel, I laid the foundation on Miss Angelo. I asked, you saw him write what he planned to bring on the boat. The prompt there, Your Honor, is general description of anticipated cargo. That's what he's planning to bring on the boat. Those statements fall under Rule 8033 as Nikki Benton's plan.
Okay. Response from the defense, I guess also taking it from the top down?
Yes, Your Honor. Starting with the top down, again, we agree Nikki Cameron Benton and extra security. We have no issues. We can redact those. Your Honor, with regards to escape, Your Honor, 8033 applies to a then existing state of mind. Your Honor, this is the purpose for the charter. This doesn't fall under a then existing state of mind or intent, purpose, motive, or plan. With regards to the set of lists or the items that are supposed to be on board that boat, Your Honor, again, that's not a plan, that's a description of what's happening. And for 8033 specifically, you can't use that exception to prove the fact remembered or believed. And in this case, opposing counsel is absolutely using this for the truth of the fact believed. In their opening statement, they said that they would prove that there were those items on board that boat. Therefore, Your Honor, they aren't just using this for the fact that the defendant planned to bring those on board, but that they were also, in fact, on board.
Okay.
Response, Your Honor?
One moment. So it
Yes,
sounds
Your
like we're okay with the full name and extra security not being offered the truth of the matter asserted. I'll offer a limiting instruction to the jury to that effect. As far as charter purpose and the items anticipated cargo, I'll hear the defense on that.
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Stinson said it best herself. When she was listing out those purposes for 803 she said intent, purpose, and motive. If you look at that prompt, Your Honor, it says charter purpose. The purpose that Nikki Benton was booking or chartering that boat, that's an intent. It falls under 8033. Now, as for that list, the prompt there is extremely specific. It doesn't ask what is in fact on the boat. What it asks is for a description of the anticipated cargo or the cargo you're planning to bring. That's the list Nikki Benton wrote, Your Honor. That certainly falls under a plan under Rule 8033.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes, then I'll rule.
Yes, Your Honor. Specifically with regards to that general description of anticipated cargo, Your Honor, it would be one thing if the defense were using that description to demonstrate it for the fact that the defendant or that Nikki Benton intended to take those items on board. But what they're using it for is the truth of the fact asserted that those items were on board, which is specifically prohibited under 8033.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused as to that response. So it sounds like you are saying they are offering for the truth of the matter asserted, but there is a hearsay exemption that calls into play there with 8033. How is this different than Nikki Benton simply writing, "This is what I intend to bring with me"?
Yes, Your Honor. The fact is, this is different because it's a description of what's going to be on board. It's not a plan. It's not a statement of intent. It's a description. And opposing counsel is using this description for the fact believed, which is that these items were on board. They're not planning to use this for the fact that Nikki Benton planned to bring those items on board.
Defense, what's your position on that last point?
Yes, Your Honor. We're absolutely, if we're allowed to continue with this line of questioning, we absolutely plan to focus on the fact that Nikki Benton planned to bring those things on board. We're not going to say that this witness knows those items were on board. Frankly, we know that's not true because she wasn't on the boat. What we're focused on is Nikki Benton's plan to bring those things on board.
Okay, so it's your position that those things were not already on board?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, based off of that representation, I'm going to overrule the objections. The court holds that charter purpose falls under 8033, and the description of the items or the list of the items also falls under 8033 based off of defense's representation. If the state believes that that foundation hasn't been laid, or if there isn't evidence that this individual, or if there's evidence that these items were in fact already on the boat, feel free to renew your objection. We can address it at that point, but I'm inclined to conditionally admit the descriptions under 8033.
Yes, Your Honor.
So Exhibit 10 is admitted with all of those conditions.
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Angelo, when Mr. Benton was asked about the purpose for this charter, he didn't say it was a gift for a job promotion, did he?
No.
He put the reason for the charter was to escape.
Yes, like a getaway.
That's right, ma'am. He said it was a getaway.
Yeah, to celebrate his big promotion at work.
Ma'am, it doesn't say to celebrate, it says escape.
Yes.
Ma'am, right there at the bottom with the anticipated cargo. Nikki Benton, he planned to bring 4 bottles of wine on this trip.
Yes.
Nikki Benton, he planned to pack a snorkel on this trip, ma'am.
Yes.
Miss Angelo, according to this charter, your boyfriend brought along a snorkel on the boat he wrote he was planning to escape on. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Thank you, ma'am. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. We just ask this witness be excused.
Okay, Miss Angela, you're excused. Thank you for your time today. Okay. One moment, please. All right. Is the state ready to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Knox Jackson for the state.
Okay.
May we proceed?
Yes, you may.
Good evening, sir. Could you introduce yourself to the jury?
Good evening. I'm Chief Knox Jackson.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm Chief of the Marine Investigations Unit for the United States Coast Guard here in Midlands.
Sir, what are your responsibilities as chief of that unit?
I investigate a wide variety of maritime incidents, both accidental and intentional. Basically, if a vessel sinks outside of the harbor, I'm the one responsible for determining how it sank and why it sank.
And have you received training from the Coast Guard in this area?
Yes, sir. In addition to the bachelor's degree I got in electrical engineering from the University of South Carolina and the master's I got in criminal justice from Boston University, I also received specialized training from the United States Coast Guard in how to investigate a wide variety of maritime incidents, including mechanical failure, accidental drowning, and explosions.
Then I want to direct your attention to today's case. Tell the jury how you're involved.
Last April, the Coast Guard got a call about a boat that exploded. I was the lead investigator. It was my job to determine how that boat exploded and why.
How did you go about that investigation?
Well, I performed a standard systems evaluation on the boat itself. I also collected and reviewed forensic evidence from that boat and the dock where that boat was kept.
And sir, all of the evidence you reviewed, was it sufficient for you to come to your conclusion?
Yes, it was. We were able to actually recover the vessel in this case, and enough of it was intact that I was able to run those tests.
And sir, tell the jury what was your conclusion as to the cause of this explosion?
Well, after a full investigation, I concluded that the boat Nikki Benton was on that exploded, it was due to tampering with that boat's engine.
Okay, sir, I want to walk the jury through that investigation. What was your first step?
Well, my first step was determining how that boat exploded.
Did you determine how?
Yes, sir. After a visual inspection of the boat, as well as some forensic testing for residue on the inside components, I was able to determine that the boat exploded due to a buildup in gas vapor inside the engine, which was then ignited with a spark, causing the boat to explode.
Okay, sir, so if a buildup of gas vapor caused the boat to explode, did you come to a conclusion as to what caused that?
Yes, sir, I did. In that same visual inspection, I noticed that the fuel line in the boat, it had been severed about 2 inches from the engine.
Why was that important?
Well, it was important because it could tell us if the accident was really an accident or if it were due to intentional tampering.
Sir, how do you distinguish between those two possibilities, accident and tampering?
Well, we look for signs of tampering specifically in regards to that fuel line. It's a little bit hard to explain in the abstract, so I actually brought along a demonstration we use for our new investigators to hopefully help out.
Sure thing, sir. Your Honor, at this time, we're screen sharing a visual aid to assist the members of the jury in understanding the witness's testimony.
Okay.
Now, sir,
before we proceed. Any objections to this demonstrative being shown to the jury defense?
Not at this time, Your Honor. We've seen it.
Okay, great.
Sir, what are we looking at here?
Well, this is an example of a fuel line. It connects the fuel tank on the left to the engine on the right.
And how do you determine from this whether it was intentional or accidental?
Well, we look for signs of tampering in the cross section of the fuel line, right there at the end where the cut is.
What would the cross section look like if this were an accident, maybe caused by weather?
Well, if it were an accident, you'd expect it to be caused by corrosion or naturally wear and tear, or yes, the weather. In those cases, you'd expect to see uneven damage around the edge of that. You'd expect to see fragmented edges that just aren't consistent all the way around.
Sir, what would it look like if it were tampering?
Well, for it to be intentional tampering, you would likely need a tool to actually cut through the fuel line. For that reason, we'd expect that cross-section to look clean and have consistent damage around the entire fuel line. Well, we'd also expect to see some tool marks.
Thank you. We can take down that visual aid now. Now, sir, bringing you back to this case, which of these two options did the evidence support?
Well, when I looked at the fuel line and the vessel Mr. Benton was on, I saw that the cut, it was clean and consistent around, and I saw that there were actually distinguishable tool marks on that fuel line. So I concluded that someone intentionally cut it.
And what kind of tool could have caused that damage?
The tool marks that I saw were consistent with a sharp bladed mechanical cutting tool.
And sir, I want to talk about if you found a tool like that in your investigation.
Sure.
Did you go to the scene aside from looking at the boat itself?
Yes, we were able to ascertain the boat's HIN, its whole identification number. That allowed us to locate the dock where it was normally kept at. We did an on-scene investigation at that dock.
Find any physical evidence?
Yes, sir, we did. When I was looking in the bushes right by those dock, I actually found a pair of wire cutters. I took photos and I sent them off to forensics.
Your Honor, at this time, we're screen sharing pre-marked Exhibit 5 for identification. Sir, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir. Those are the wire cutters I found. I actually took this photo myself.
Is it fair and accurate to the last time you saw them?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state offers Exhibit 5.
Sorry, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, so admitted.
Now, sir, could you just describe this image for me?
Yes, it's a pair of wire cutters, a sharp bladed mechanical cutting tool.
Thank you. We can take down Exhibit 5 now. So, sir, considering all the evidence you looked at, what was your ultimate conclusion as to the cause of this explosion?
My ultimate conclusion in today's case, to a reasonable degree of professional and scientific certainty, is that the boat Nikki Benton was on exploded because someone intentionally tampered with the fuel line. In other words, this wasn't an accident. This was intentional.
Thank you for your time, sir. Your Honor, no further questions from the state at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Chief Jackson, what car do you drive?
What car do I drive?
Yes, sir.
2014 GMC.
All right. So when you get into your 2014 GMC, before you start driving, you have to fill it up with gas. True?
Absolutely.
The boat, in this case, well, it's similar to your GMC, right?
Well, in some ways, absolutely.
The boat, in this case, it needs fuel.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then I want to talk about maybe why that's important. Sir, you'd agree with me that if the ship didn't have fuel, it couldn't depart the dock. True?
Yes, I agree.
As far as you know, the boat, it didn't just explode while it was parked at the dock.
No, ma'am. We found it a little bit away from the dock.
That's exactly right. The boat set sail before it exploded.
Yes, that is correct.
It's safe to say when the boat was sailing on the water, that's because it had fuel.
Yes, there was likely fuel already in the engine of the boat, so when they started it up, it was able to move.
That's right, sir, but at a certain point, the engine, it ran out of fuel, right?
That's exactly correct.
That's because you said the fuel line, well, it was cut.
Yes, True.
You told us that the cuts in that fuel line, it's consistent with a sharp instrument cutting that fuel line, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I think we can both agree that in order to operate a sharp cutting instrument, well, there needs to be a person to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, the only person who was on the boat after it had set sail and lost fuel, well, that was Nikki Benton.
Yes, I believe so.
Well, you never looked into the possibility that maybe Nikki Benton was planning to tamper with that boat.
I found no evidence to support that.
Sir, the reason you found no evidence to support that is because you never looked into the possibility, right?
No, that's not true. Those wire cutters that I believe were consistent with the damage, they were actually seen by an eyewitness to be with August Slaughter, not Nikki Benton.
Sir, let's talk about those tools because you actually looked for fingerprints on the tools, right?
That's right, I sent them into forensics.
You never found fingerprints of August Slaughter on that tool.
No, ma'am.
You also never tested those tools for Nikki Benton's fingerprints.
I didn't test them, I sent them into forensics.
So forensics never tested Nikki Benton's fingerprints on those tools.
You'd have to ask them.
Sir, to your knowledge, you don't know if they ever tested those tools for Nikki Benton's fingerprints, right?
I don't know. I just know that they were unable to find any fingerprints.
So as far as you know, you have no idea if Nikki Benton ever used those tools.
No, all I know is that it was August Slaughter who was seen with them.
Sir, you never recovered fingerprints from the dock, right?
From the dock? No, ma'am.
You never recovered fingerprints from the boat either.
No, ma'am. We recovered it from the bottom of the lake.
So, sir, when someone is in the engine cutting fuel lines, you have no fingerprints to say who that person was.
That is correct, ma'am.
You have no idea if that person was Nikki Benton. True?
We found no evidence to support that, but that is true.
It's true that you have no idea if it was Nikki Benton, right?
Again, we found no evidence to support this was Nikki Benton.
Sir, I'm going to need a yes or a no to my question. You don't know if it was Nikki Benton.
Well, I can't say with 100% certainty, but there was no evidence to support that, ma'am.
No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm back with you, Mr. Jackson. I just have one question based on what opposing counsel asked you. Sir, where were the tools that you found? Were they found on the boat or on the dock?
They were found on the dock, not on the boat. We didn't recover any tools from the boat, and certainly no sharp-bladed mechanical cutting instruments.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any recross?
No recross on those grounds.
All right.
May
Very
Mr.
good.
Jackson be excused.
Yes, Mr. Jackson, you're excused. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
All right. Is the state ready to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Kai Kalba.
Okay.
Do you see me? Hello?
I can see you, sir.
Oh, great, great.
All
Hi.
set?
Yes, yes.
All right, sir. Good evening. Could you introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Good evening. My name is Kai Kalba. It's a pleasure to electronically meet you.
What do you do for work, sir?
I work at the marina as a dockhand.
How'd you get into that?
They found me on the LinkedIn. They said I was unbelievably inspiring and that I had a forward-thinking, well-refined tool set. That's the Kalba difference.
Where do you work?
Blue Hawk Dock. You know where the Gentlemen's Club is on 67th and Sycamore? It's about 5 miles south. Or so I've been told.
Were you working at the dock on April 25th of last year?
Yeah, that's the day that man was caught in that devastating boat explosion.
I want to take a step back and walk the jury through what you saw that day. So how'd your day start?
Oh, well, I headed off to the marina and I checked in this lovely couple, Nikki Benton and Abby Angelo. And they sort of reminded me of my own daughter with her husband. Very sweet. And anyhow, I digress. Since their boat ride wasn't for about a half hour, they went for a walk, said they'd be back.
So while you waited for them to come back, did anyone else come to the dock?
Yeah. There was this woman who at the front gate of the dock sort of staring at me like I was having an affair at a Coldplay concert.
Did you ever talk to her?
Yes, she asked to be let into the dock.
Did she ever introduce herself?
Actually, a couple of times.
Sir, what do you mean a couple of times?
Well, I asked for her name, and she gives me her name. But then I asked her for her ID, and on the ID it had a different name. It said August Slaughter.
Miss Kelly, do you mind asking your client to turn her camera on?
No problem. Miss Slaughter, if you could please come on the screen.
All right, sir. Do you see the same woman on call today?
Yes.
Can you point out an article of clothing she's wearing?
She's wearing a black button sweater.
Your Honor, let the record reflect identification of the defendant.
Record shall so reflect.
Thank you, Miss Slaughter. All right, sir. What did the defendant say after handing you her ID?
She said she wanted to chase some guy, the guy from earlier, Nikki Benton.
So did you let her in?
Yes. You see, management told me I'm not allowed to ask my riddles 3 anymore. So I put her name on the sheet, let her right in.
You just mentioned a sheet. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, we had a sign-in sheet we used at the dock to check guests in and out of the dock. Use the thing every day.
Was that a regular business practice?
Sure thing. All the deckhands use this to check in captains, shadow guests, entertainers, decorators, you name it.
And did you personally manage that sheet?
Sure, during my shift, I wrote in all the names.
And would you recognize it if I showed it to you?
Sure thing.
Could we get Exhibit 9 up on the screen? All right, sir. Can you see that okay?
Yeah,
All right. Do you recognize what that is?
it's my sign-in sheet.
Is it fair and accurate?
Looks like it, yeah.
Have there been any changes made?
No.
At this time, we move Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, at this point to hearsay.
Okay, to what statements specifically?
We actually object to the entire document as hearsay, but if you'd like a more specific statement, we can go into each and every one of them.
Let's first hear from the state in response to your hearsay objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. This is admissible under 8036 as a record of regularly conducted business activity. We've laid all the requisite foundation that Mr. Kalba is a custodian of the record, that it's a regularly conducted business activity, and that it existed at the time of the case in question.
Defense, what say you to 8036 applying to this exhibit?
Yes, Your Honor, we actually don't believe that opposing counsel has laid enough foundation to meet prong B of this exception. We understand what opposing counsel just said is that they've laid foundation that making this record was a regularly conducted practice of that activity. And we agree, but that's only prong C. Prong B says that we need foundation that the keeping of this record, the storage, the maintenance of keeping these records was also a regular practice. I mean, all we've heard is that this is my sign-in sheet. Are we supposed to assume they just use this one piece of paper every single time? We haven't heard any foundation on the record to how this business document is actually kept or stored. So we don't believe they've actually laid enough foundation to establish it as a business document at this time.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. State, what say you to 8036B? I presume it's your contention that you've laid sufficient foundation. What do you have to say on that?
Yes, Your Honor. He's already laid testimony about what happens when a guest comes into the dock, that he's sitting there with his sign-in sheet. He signs them in on the sheet, leaves, and goes and walks them to whatever marina they're going to. And now, Your Honor, that's saying he personally stores it. It's stored in his place of work. That's sufficient to lay foundation for how this is maintained.
Response from the defense?
Your Honor, what opposing counsel just said is that we've heard foundation of how he uses it. I agree with that, but that only satisfies prong C. We haven't heard any testimony from Mr. Kalba himself about how this document is stored, how this document is maintained, or how this record is actually kept, and whether or not keeping this singular piece of paper was actually a regular practice. They have not laid enough foundation to satisfy prong B.
Okay, last shot from the state, then I'll rule.
Yes, Your Honor, we believe that foundation has already been laid. He's testified that he personally manages it and keeps custody of it in his place of work. That's sufficient as far as maintenance. If Your Honor would like, we're more than happy to lay that foundation now.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain the objection. The court does not believe that 8036B has been satisfied at this point. So feel free to lay that foundation now.
Yes, Your
Yes,
Honor.
Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Kalba, how do you store and manage this document?
Well, we keep this on the dock. We keep it by the gate.
At this time, the prosecution moves Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Response? Or
Yes,
objection?
yes, Your Honor. We re-raise our objection to hearsay. We still don't believe that prong B has been satisfied. He says we keep it by the gate. That's simply not enough to say that we store and maintain this record after we've filled up all the slots on the sign-in sheet. In fact, I think the problem here is that nowhere in Mr. Kalba's affidavit does he actually say any way in which they store this record. There is no foundation to be laid. They cannot satisfy prong B of 8036, Your Honor.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree that we don't have sufficient foundation on the record for 8036 to apply. Anything further from the state?
Yes, Your Honor, we could lay that foundation right now.
All right, go for it. Sustained for now.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, is this kept and maintained in the regular course of your business activity?
Yeah, but when it's all signed in, then we get a new one handed over to management.
At this time, we'd like to enter Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Response?
Your Honor, once again, we'd re-raise our objection. They have not satisfied prong B. At this point, Mr. Kalba is just making up facts that aren't contained within his affidavit because he knows that they do not have enough information to satisfy prong B. They don't actually have any regular practice of keeping or maintaining this singular piece of paper. And just because he says, oh, we give it to management, Your Honor, that's still not enough to satisfy prong B of 8036. These
Okay.
facts. Sorry, go ahead, Your Honor.
No, I was about to say, so based on the representation that the witness made, I'm inclined to overrule the objection and admit Exhibit 9 under 8036. I appreciate and understand your argument, defense counsel. You'll be able to impeach the witness on cross-examination as to whether that foundation is in fact in the witness's affidavit. But for now, I am inclined to believe that's in the affidavit until I'm told otherwise on cross-examination. So I'll overrule the objection. Exhibit 9 is in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, sir. What time did you sign the defendant in?
Let's see. It says right there, oh, that's helpful. 2:10.
All right, sir. I want to talk about what happened after you signed the defendant in. Did you see where she went?
Yeah, sure I did. Right into me. I saw her go for my Home Depot utility tactical tool belt, and it fell to the floor. All my tools, they went everywhere.
Did you manage to pick everything up?
Oh, sure. I thought I did, and then a couple hours later, I noticed Mother Shucker, my wire cutters are missing.
Sir, you just mentioned wire cutters. Would you recognize a photo of those?
Sure.
Could we pull up Exhibit 5? All right, sir. Do you recognize what that is?
Looks like my wire cutters. But be careful with those. You can nick your schmeckle if you drop them in your lap.
Sir, where was the last place you saw these wire cutters?
Well, that was when August helped me pick up my tools.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, or good evening, I'm sorry, Mr. Calba. I'd like to start by talking about something you said on direct examination.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Oh, what is that? What is that?
Sir, I'd like to ask you some questions, if that's all right.
Oh, sure.
Now, on direct examination, you said that when you finish with the sign-in sheet, you give it to your management and they store it for you?
Yeah, but management tells us to leave it at the front and they take care of it.
So you don't actually know what happens to this document after you write on it, do you?
No.
You have no idea how this document is stored?
No.
Your Honor, at this point, we'd like to re-raise our objection to hearsay, as we believe we've shown that they cannot satisfy the prongs of 8036, and we'd move to strike the testimony regarding the sign-in sheet.
Response, Your Honor?
from state?
Yes, Your Honor. If opposing counsel would be amenable, we're willing to redact everything except those last three names, which Mr. Calba has personal knowledge of. He's able to testify to how it was maintained because it was within his custody the whole time.
Your Honor, we are not amenable to that. We still believe that those statements are inadmissible hearsay because Mr. Calba cannot satisfy prong B of 8036. He just testified. He has no idea how this record is stored. He doesn't know what happens to it after he writes on it. And therefore, this is still inadmissible hearsay that can't come onto the record and should not be shown to this jury.
Yeah, I tend to find defense's argument compelling here. The witness expressly said that they do not know how this is stored, which is a square requirement under 8036B. I'm sorry, the state, I'll give you the last shot here, but I am inclined to agree with defense counsel on this.
Yes, Your Honor. As for the witness himself, if they'd like, we can redact everything above those last three names. Since he had custody of it for those names, he personally signed them in. Everything beyond that is just obstructionist. It wouldn't be coming into evidence. We just redact it. Since he had custody, he can definitely testify to how it was maintained and how it was stored in his course of business.
I'm a little bit confused as to the proposed redactions, given that we don't have the exhibit in front of us. Would it be possible to pull that up just so I can get a better understanding of what you're proposing here and why?
Yes, Your Honor, we can screen share at this time.
Great.
Just one moment.
Yeah, of course. Okay, what is the state proposing here?
Yes, Your Honor. So those last three names, those were signed in by Mr. Kalba while he was on duty. Now, the only testimony that's coming onto the record is the writing on this sign-in sheet. The prior names, it's a moot point if they're redacted, Your Honor. He's able to testify to how this record was maintained. Additionally, he's already testified he keeps it by his side during his own business and while it's under his custody. So if those prior names are redacted, it's a non-issue, Your Honor.
Defense, your response to that?
Your Honor, we absolutely believe that it is still an issue. We have an objection to the entirety of this document because we do not believe anything on it is satisfied by 8036 because Mr. Calba cannot satisfy prong B that he knows how this was stored and maintained. We've established that very many times on the record at this point. He said, I have no idea how this document is stored. Just because he's the custodian doesn't mean that they've now magically, met prong B. That's still an issue, sir, and we would still object to all of this document coming onto the record.
Yeah, my question for the state is, why do you care about those last three names? What are you offering it for if all the preceding names are redacted? Why is this relevant?
Yes, Your Honor. It's demonstrating that the defendant was in fact signed into the dock. We have on a good faith basis that when she testifies later, she's going to say she was never at that dock. This is key to the prosecution's case, Your Honor.
Did the witness see the defendant signing that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I don't believe the witness actually testified he saw August Slaughter signed it. From what I heard the witness say, he wrote all three of the entries. We still don't believe that this should come onto the record just because he's the custodian of it. They have not satisfied prong B. We don't know what happened to this paper after he wrote on it. We don't know where it was stored. This indicates a lack of trustworthiness, and this should not come onto the record.
Yeah, I'm inclined to sustain the objection, and I'm going to. So I'm going to strike the testimony relating to Exhibit 9. The jury can disregard Exhibit 9. It will not be published to them, and we will take it from there. If State's Counsel wants to use Exhibit 9 in the future, potentially for impeachment purposes based off of what you've represented, we can cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, the court does not believe that 803.6b has been satisfied, and the witnesses expressly stated that they can't lay that foundation. So for those reasons, I am going to strike the testimony relating to Exhibit 9 and its admission.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Kalba, I'd now like to clear up something else you mentioned on direct. Because you said that you dropped your tool belt onto the dock, is that right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And you said August was near you when you dropped your tools, is that right?
Yeah, but she helped me pick them up.
Well, that's right. August, she leaned down and she helped you pick your tools up, right?
Yeah, such a dear.
And then after that, she handed your tools back to you.
Yes.
You never saw August Slaughter take your wire cutter and put it in her pocket, did you?
No.
In fact, to your knowledge, out of all of the tools she touched, well, she handed each and every one back to you. Isn't that right?
Yes, she did. Even the ones covered in bird poop. Disgusting.
But that's a yes. She handed each and every tool back to you. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you said that you pointed her to where Nikki's boat was. Is that right?
Yeah, I pointed her over, and I went and rinsed off some of the muck.
Well, that's right. You parted ways at that point, right?
Yes.
So you never actually saw August get on that boat?
No.
You actually have no idea if Miss Slaughter got on that boat or not, do you?
No, I can't say I do.
Well, let's talk about what you can tell this jury. Because it's true that Nikki and Abby, they showed up together. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
And you actually tried to start talking to Nikki when they got there.
Yeah.
But Abby, she interrupted the two of you. Is that right?
Yes.
She interjected into your conversation and started asking you questions.
Yeah, but she kept asking all these questions, I remember.
And sir, every single question that she asked was about August Slaughter. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And you told her, you said, ma'am, I don't know who that is, didn't you?
Yes.
But Abby, she wouldn't let up. She kept asking about August. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
At this point, you noticed that Nicky Benton, he started fidgeting with his watch. Is that right?
Yeah, as she kept asking these questions, August slaughtered this, August slaughtered that. Nikki was getting so nervous.
That's right. The more Abby Angelo brought up August Slaughter, the more uncomfortable Nicky Benton got, right?
Yeah, could have sworn it.
To speculation.
Response?
Your Honor, the witness has already testified that he observed Mr. Benton fidgeting with his watch. He elicited himself that he thought the witness was getting more and more nervous. We're simply asking him to testify to his rationally based perception based on what he saw. We're not asking him to speculate into the mindset.
Brief response, Your Honor.
Yes.
Regardless, it's still speculation. He's stepping into the mindset, and the line of questioning is asking him to step into the mindset of Nicky Benton and determine whether or not he was nervous. Your Honor, they can testify about actions he saw or what Nicky Benton did, but saying he seemed nervous, that crosses the line to speculation.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. So at that point, when Abby was asking questions about August, you saw Nicky fidgeting. with his watch.
Yeah,
And then eventually, Abby, she kissed Nikki on the cheek. Is that right?
yeah, yes.
She told him goodbye,
Yep.
and then she left, right?
Yeah, she went off into the horizon.
You never saw Nikki Benton kiss Abby back, did you?
No, I don't remember that.
You didn't hear Nikki Benton say goodbye to Abby Angelo, did you?
No,
In fact, you didn't hear Nikki Benton speak a single word the entire time he was standing next to Abby Angelo. Isn't that right?
no. If they're anything like my daughter and her boyfriend, it's all over the phone nowadays with these kids.
So that's a yes to my question. You didn't hear Nikki Benton say a single word while Abby Angelo was standing next to him. Isn't that right?
No.
And sir, you actually thought this whole interaction, it seemed pretty weird, right?
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance.
Yeah, why is this relevant, counsel?
Your Honor, whether or not the witness thought the interaction between the two of them was odd is relevant. It's our contention today that Nikki Benton attempted to fake her own death to get away from the relationship she had with Miss Angelo. If they were having an interaction directly prior to this that other people perceived as weird or uncomfortable, well, that's absolutely relevant in today's case.
Response from the state?
Yes, Your Honor, the facts of their case aren't made any more probable by Mr. Kalba saying the interaction looked weird to him. Your Honor, it's just not relevant.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the witness can provide facts and the jury can make the determination of whether it's weird, but the witness's own feelings about what they observed uh, is not relevant. So I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, Mr. Calba, I'd like to talk to you about what happened after this interaction. Because,
All
ma'am,
right.
sir, it's true. You actually saw Nikki's boat pull out of the dock, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I noticed because that captain, huge fan of Game of Thrones, it played the music.
Well, actually, at 2:30, you heard the engine start up, didn't you?
Yes.
When you heard the engine start up, you walked over and you watched the boat leave the dock, right?
Yeah.
Sir, you'd agree with me the boat didn't catch fire at that point, did it?
Oh, no, no, no. It's beautiful, but it's not hot. Yeah. See what I did there?
So that's a yes, the boat didn't catch fire when that engine turned on, did it?
No, no.
And sir, you'd recognize a picture of that boat if I showed it to you today, is that right?
Oh, sure.
Your Honor, let the record reflect we're now screen sharing what's been pre-admitted into evidence as Exhibit 1 pursuant to Stipulation 13.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Calba, this is the boat that Nikki Benton was on, is that right?
Yeah.
Uh, Now, when you saw the boat, you never saw it on fire, did you?
No.
The reason you never saw the boat on fire is because the boat was far away from the dock when it caught fire, isn't that right?
I don't know.
Well, sir, from this picture, we can agree that that boat, it's in the middle of the river, can't we?
Yeah, looks like it.
You can't see the dock anywhere in that picture.
No.
So Nikki's boat didn't catch fire until it was already in the middle of the river long after the engine started. Is that right?
I guess so.
Thank you, Mr. Calba. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. We just ask that Mr. Kalba be excused.
All right, Mr. Kolbe, your excuse. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. It's getting late.
It sure is, sir. Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor. The prosecution rests, and we'd be amenable to maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, why don't we take 5? I've got 39 past the hour. Let's reconvene at quarter of.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alrighty, I've got 45 past the hour. Is everybody back that's supposed to be back?
Defense is back and ready, Your Honor.
Great.
Same with the state, Your Honor.
Excellent. Is the defense going to put on a case in chief today?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, we'd like to call Gail Thunstrom to the stand.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am. Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
My name is Gail Thunstrom, and I'm a recent divorcee.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am.
Well, I appreciate that, Miss Kelly, because my ex-husband's name was Mark, and he was a very insecure man. He was always telling me I spent too much time with Chase, slept on him too much, spent my money on him. I mean, can you believe that?
Is that why you got a divorce, ma'am?
It is. Mark said if I cared about Chase so much, then I should just go off and marry him. And he gave me the papers. That was the end of it. I think he moved to Vegas.
Ma'am, I gotta ask, who is Chase?
My boat. He lives at the Blue Hawk Dock.
Do you know of any other boats that lived at the Blue Hawk Dock, ma'am?
Well, of course, there was Amelia, a real big girl, Delilah. She let just about anybody, take a ride, if you know what I mean. Byron, old fella, but real good stamina, could just keep going for hours and hours
Are
and
you
hours.
familiar, ma'am? Are you familiar with a boat called the Griffin?
Of course. I mean, not much happens here in Midlands without Chase and I hearing about it. What happened with Nikki, it was just real sad.
Ma'am, who is Nikki?
Nicky Benton, a real young guy. He came to Blue Hawk looking to rent a boat with his girlfriend.
Ma'am, do you know who his partner was?
Yeah, it was Abby Angelo. They were asking a lot of questions about the dock and the boats, and I let them know how beautiful Chase was. I said I'd be willing to rent him out for a little bit.
Did they choose to rent out your boat?
They did. They weren't too interested in my prices. It's like the old saying goes, money can't buy happiness, but it sure could buy a boat. Griffin's cheap, so he's a lot of people's pick.
And ma'am, do you know if they both went on the Griffin?
No, just Nikki on the boat. Nothing says healthy relationship like a romantic getaway for one.
But ma'am, why do you say that?
I just would have thought they were planning to go together.
Objection, Your Honor. If I may be heard under 702, excuse me.
Sure.
Your Honor, this is a lay witness. She's testifying to facts and what she observed, Your Honor. Right now, we're getting into her opinions. These are not relevant, Your Honor, and they don't fall under 701.
Okay, are you objecting to relevance or to 701?
701, Your Honor. Specifically, though, they're not rationally based in her perception, Your Honor, and so they can't come in.
Okay, so do you believe they are relevant?
Your Honor, relevance is an extremely low bar in this jurisdiction. The defense is alleging that there was something going on with this relationship. We'll give them that. However, specifically under 701, the opinions, Your Honor, they can't come into evidence.
Okay, so on 701 grounds, defense response?
Your Honor, we don't believe that Miss Thunstrom has testified to any opinion that's improper. All she's testified to is what she observed and her impressions of the two people. We don't believe that there are any 701 violations that have come onto the record at this time.
If I may be heard, Your Honor.
Please.
Then, Your Honor, I apologize. We will change our objection to 401 relevance. Her impressions are not an issue in today's case. They don't make a fact more or less likely.
Yeah, why do her impressions matter?
Your Honor, just like Mr. Ackerman said, in this jurisdiction, relevance is an incredibly low bar. We're just trying to elicit testimony of what the two of them did and what her impression was of it. What we're trying to get at with this line of questioning is that when the two spoke to her, they wanted to go together. When they came back later to book a different boat, only one of them was aboard. That's the fact we're trying to get at with this testimony, and we do believe it's relevant because, again, it's our contention in today's case that Nikki Benton made a choice to get on that boat alone in order to attempt to fake her own death.
Response, Your Honor. Last shout.
No need. I'm going to sustain the objection. While I appreciate that relevance is a low bar and defense's recognition of that, I don't think we quite clear it here with the impressions of the witness. What defense has represented, it sounds like all of those things are. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear my dog right now scratching the bed.
Can't hear him, Your Honor.
Anywho, sorry. Well, good boy. The observations that the witness has made certainly fall under 401 as relevant, but the impressions, just the opinions that resulted from those facts and observations, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your
Your
Honor.
Honor, and the state moves to strike those statements from the record.
So stricken.
Miss Thunstrom, do you know if the two of them arrived to the dock together?
They did. That's kind of why I thought that they would be going together, because they got there at the same time.
Objection, Your
after
Honor.
one.
Again, at this time, if I may be heard.
Please.
Yes, Your Honor. Relevance again. What this witness thought about they were going to do, Your Honor, that's not relevant pursuant to your previous rulings. We need to stick to the facts of what she saw and what they did.
Defense response?
Your Honor, at this point, she's not made any opinion. She just said they arrived together. I thought they would go together, but they didn't. That is relevant, Your Honor. It's not just an opinion. It's her observing the facts and explaining them to the jury.
I'll try again, Your Honor. Last shout.
Sure.
Yes, Your Honor. That is, in fact, an opinion. She specifically said that's why I thought they were going together. Except there's been no testimony to establish that they were going together. In fact, Your Honor, the only thing the witness could testify to is what she actually saw and what they actually did, not what she thinks.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your
Again,
Honor.
Your Honor, we'd move to strike the testimony.
So stricken.
Miss Thunstrom, without telling us your impression, can you tell us if the two, Nikki and Abby, arrived to the dock together?
They did a little after 1 on April 25th, 2024. But, Nikki never got to leave because she was on that awful Griffin. Chase would never treat a lady like that.
Do you know if they were both on that boat?
No. Well, yes, I do. But the two of them weren't on it together. It was just Nikki Benton.
And would you recognize a charter for Nikki Benton's trip if I showed it to you today?
I would.
Your Honor, let the record reflect we're screen sharing what's been previously entered into evidence as Exhibit 10. Miss Thunstrom, did Nikki Benton list her reason for chartering that boat?
He did. He wrote escape. I thought he was planning for a romantic getaway, not a real one.
And ma'am, where were you that day?
Well, I was off work, so I was down at the pub. I didn't stay long because Chase just hates me being gone.
And now I want to get this point clear for the jury. When you left the dock to go to the pub, was Nikki's boat still at the dock?
Yeah, it was.
When you got back to the dock from the pub, was Nikki's boat still at the dock?
No, it left sometime while I was out at the pub.
Well, then I want to talk about what happened in the time that Nikki's boat was there from the time that Nikki's boat took off. Did you see August Slaughter at all during that period of time?
I did. Down at the pub, I saw August. She was there the whole time. I didn't stay long, like I said, but August was there when I got there and there when I left.
So, ma'am, you're telling us that, or I'm sorry, ma'am, would it have been possible for August Slaughter to get to that dock before the boat took off?
Objection, Your Honor. That calls for speculation, if I may be heard.
Sure.
Your Honor, the question is based in the fact that the witness went from the dock to the bar and back to the dock, and while she was at the bar, she saw the defendant. But specifically, Your Honor, asking this witness whether it was possible for the defendant to get back to the back to the dock, that is a speculative question. The witness has no personal knowledge as to whether the defendant left the bar after this witness did, as she stated. And Your Honor, there are many routes from the bar to the dock. There's no way for the witness to say definitively whether or not the defendant could have gone back to the bar. The question itself is calling for speculation.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. What I've asked the witness is that from the time when she saw the boat to the time that the boat left, would it have been possible for August Slaughter to be at the dock? This is not speculation, as she was with August Slaughter for all of this time. She said, when I got to the bar, August Slaughter was there and the boat was at the dock. When I left the bar, August Slaughter was there and the boat wasn't at the dock anymore. This isn't speculation. She's testifying to what she actually observed.
Response, Your Honor.
Yep, last shot.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense has two issues with this. First of all, Your Honor, we've heard no foundation as to any timestamps in this situation. We don't know what time the boat got there, what time it left, what time she got to the bar, what time she left the bar. Then, Your Honor, even if what Ms. Thunstrom is saying aligns with the timestamps of this situation, when Ms. Thunstrom left the bar, she doesn't know if the defendant left right after her. She doesn't know if the defendant left right after her, took a different route to the dock, and then got to the boat. The question asking, is it possible, Your Honor, for the defendant to get to the dock? The only answer to that should be no, Your Honor. But the question itself is speculative.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I think you can explore those points on cross, but I think there's been sufficient foundation on the record to make what sounds like somewhat of a common sense opinion based off of where people were and when. So the objection's overruled.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Thunstrom, I'll ask you that question again. From the time that Nikki's boat was there to the time that Nikki's boat left, would it have been possible for August Slaughter to be at that dock?
Well, no, because, she was at the pub with me the whole time.
Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Ms. Thunstrom. How you doing tonight?
I'm just doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Now, I want to pick up right where you left off. You told us on direct examination that you think you saw the defendant at a bar the day the boat exploded, right?
That's right.
Ma'am, this was sometime in the afternoon.
I believe so, yes. I don't tend to patronize bars before 12.
Ma'am, you can't tell this jury what time you saw the defendant.
No, I can't. Not what time of day.
You don't know if it was 12 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m. You can't say.
I can't say. You're right.
And ma'am, when you saw the defendant at the bar, you actually left right after that.
That's right, I did.
Ma'am, you don't know what this person was doing before they got to the bar?
I don't, no.
You don't know what they did after you left the bar?
No.
You don't know what time this person got to the bar?
I'm not sure. I just know it was before me.
Ma'am, you don't know what time they left the bar, right?
No, I don't.
All you can say is that at some point on April 25th, the day the boat exploded, you think you saw the defendant at a bar, correct?
That's right, and that they were there the whole time I was there.
Ma'am, I want to talk about if it actually was the defendant that you saw. Ma'am, you and the defendant, it's not like you're the best of friends. You don't know her that well, right?
No, I don't.
And when you saw her at the bar, you first saw the back of her head.
That's right. I recognized her by that beautiful black hair. It's the same color of Chase's. But then she turned around. I got a better look at the front of her.
But that's a yes, ma'am. You first saw the back of her head.
That's exactly right.
And ma'am, you were at a bar. You were drinking that day, correct?
I had a couple, sure.
The point is, ma'am, you never confirmed that it was the defendant.
Well, like I said, once she turned around, I got a better look at the front.
Sure, let me be more clear. You never walked up to the defendant, yes?
That's right.
You never looked her in the eyes, true?
No, I didn't.
You never said, hey, you're August Slaughter, right?
No, I didn't.
And ma'am, I want to move on to something else you mentioned on direct examination. I want to talk about what you know about the relationship between Abby and Nikki Benton.
Of course.
Now, as you said on direct examination, you've seen this couple before.
I have.
And when you saw them, you didn't see Nikki Benton ever try to run away from Abby, correct?
No, but to be honest, I didn't see much of them.
Ma'am, you didn't see them fighting?
No.
And you never saw Nikki Benton on the boat that blew up, right?
No, I didn't.
You never saw Nikki Benton with a wire cutter in their hand?
No, I didn't see any wire cutters.
You certainly never saw Nikki Benton on the boat with a wire cutter snipping away at wires, right?
I did not see that, no.
Ma'am, I next want to talk to you about whether there could have been a storm on the day the boat exploded. Ma'am, you were at the dock, correct?
I was down at the pub, but eventually I came back to the dock to see
Eventually,
things.
excuse me. Eventually, you came back to the dock and you're looking out on the water, right?
That's right.
Ma'am, you don't remember seeing any rain that day?
I don't, but like you said, I was, down a couple of drinks, so.
But ma'am, that's a yes to my question. You don't remember seeing any rain?
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember seeing any dark clouds in the sky?
I don't remember, no.
You don't remember any hearing loud thunder, right?
No.
And ma'am, you certainly don't remember seeing any lightning the day the boat exploded.
I don't think so, no.
Thank you for your time, Miss Thunstrom. You have a good rest of the evening.
You too.
I take it that's the end of your cross-examination, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Gotcha. Any redirect?
No redirect for this witness, Your Honor. We just asked that Ms. Thunstrom be allowed to step down.
All right, Miss Thunstrom. Oh, she's already gone. Perfect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense calls Chris Hubicki to the stand.
Okay.
We're going to give her just a second to set up.
Of course.
Good afternoon, or good evening. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
I sure can. I believe to be having some technical difficulties. This is not my name. Give me 1 second.
Oh, that's all right, ma'am. Take your time.
I don't know what the Zoom's doing these days. Alrighty, there we go.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Now that I've got my name, I sure can. Hi, good evening. My name is Chris Hubicki. Pleasure to meet you.
You as well, ma'am. Where are you from?
Well, if you couldn't tell, I'm actually from the United States, born and raised. I'm just kidding you, I'm from Melbourne. Did I get you, Miss Salter?
Not one bit, ma'am. Where do you go to school?
Well, as you've probably guessed, I traveled all the way across the pond. I went to UCLA, where I studied atmospheric sciences, meteorology, and I also took some courses on identifying explosions in everyday accidents.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a weather consultant at a firm called Flippin' Consulting. If there's an accident, and there's any chance that weather might be involved, my firm is there. I've done vehicle crashes, property damage. Heck, I even worked a bushfire case not too long ago. It turns out it wasn't a bushfire at all. It was actually a pesky arsonist burning his way across the outback. Real gnarly stuff.
Ma'am, when you take on these types of cases, what are you looking for?
Typically, we use a standard audit method to take a look at all of the evidence collected from an accident. Then, we use all that evidence to determine a cause of the accident.
All right, ma'am. What brings you into court today?
I was hired to conduct that audit of Nikki Benton's boating accident. Specifically, I was looking to determine if the explosion that killed Mr. Benton was intentional or if it was caused by weather. I use my standard audit method to do just that.
All right, Ms. Hubicki, we'll take those conclusions one by one. Starting with your analysis of whether the explosion was intentional, what materials did you review in that analysis?
Well, actually, one of your attorneys, Miss Kelly, I think I see her on the screen there. Hello. Well, she was kind enough to send me over all of the exhibits and affidavits, so I took a look at those. I also looked at some photos of the damaged electrical systems on the boat, and last but not least, I conducted a weather analysis.
Were those materials sufficient for you to reach your conclusions about whether or not the explosion was intentional?
Well, Miss Salter, they've got me under oath today, so I got to be honest with you. No, they weren't.
What do you mean, ma'am?
The photos of the electrical systems that I reviewed show they could have potentially been damaged by someone tampering with the wires of that boat. But I couldn't be certain from just a photo alone, so I asked if I could have a look at the boat itself.
Ma'am, were you allowed to see Mr. Benton's boat?
No. From what I understand, the Coast Guard has the boat right now, and well, they didn't tell me why, but they wouldn't let me see it as part of my analysis.
Why would have looking at that boat been important for your analysis?
If I was able to look at the boat, up close and personal, I could have looked for signs of intentional explosion and interference. But without seeing that boat, I wasn't able to.
All right, ma'am. Then let's talk about your analysis of this being a weather-related accident. Did you have sufficient facts for that analysis?
Thankfully, Miss Salter, I did.
How'd you start?
Looking at weather data from the night of the accident, I learned that there was a thunderstorm in the area. To see if that storm contributed to the explosion, I started by identifying where exactly Mr. Benton's boat was in the river, so I could compare the boat's location during it to any nearby lightning strikes. We do that using weather radar data. It can be a bit difficult to interpret if you're not a meteorologist. So at my firm, we like to use a demonstration to explain how we analyze that data. Miss Salter, can I use that today?
That'd be just fine, ma'am. Your Honor, at this time, we'll be displaying Miss Hubicki's demonstration. It's already been shown to opposing counsel before today's trial.
Any objection from the state?
None, Your Honor. We've seen it.
Okay, go for it.
All right, ma'am. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Sure. So this grid here represents a weather radar. Now, I want to be absolutely clear. This isn't the actual weather radar we saw the night of Mr. Benton's accident, but this is a representation of how we interpret and visualize that data. So to start, let's say that there's a boat on our radar right in the middle. When lightning strikes during a storm, that also shows up on the radar. If lightning were to hypothetically strike well outside the range of a boat, like this, well, that's a miss. Because we know that those lightning strikes, well, they couldn't have hit this battleship. But if lightning strikes at a closer range, like this, well, this red outline, that could be a hit. And a hit could sink your battleship.
All right, ma'am. Thanks for the explanation. Miss Hubicki, did you happen to see any of those lightning strikes on the radar the afternoon of the boat explosion?
I actually did. The radar picked up a lightning strike within 500 meters, that's about a third of a mile for you Americans, of Mr. Benton's boat at the exact time it went down.
What did that mean for your analysis?
Because the lightning struck within the range of the boat, it's possible that it struck Mr. Benton's boat. And if lightning struck the boat, well, that hit could have caused an explosion.
Objection, Your Honor. Under 702A, if I may be heard.
Sure.
Yes, Your Honor. As far as this witness's qualifications, we've heard testimony about her degree in meteorology, that she works in a meteorological consulting firm, nothing that would qualify her to testify about mechanics.
Response, Your Honor.
Sure.
As Ms. Hubicki testified, her firm takes on any type of case in which an accident or an incident could be weather-related. An example she gave was car crashes, Your Honor. She looks at if car crashes could be caused by weather issues. Because of that expertise and her experience in those type of cases, paired with her classes and identifying explosions and everyday accidents, and her background in meteorology, that certainly satisfies 702A for her to make the conclusion that lightning striking a boat could explode it, Your Honor.
Response, Your Honor?
Response? Yep.
Yes, Your Honor. Just because this witness's firm conducts investigations similar to this one doesn't mean she does. We'd have to hear some more foundation about previous cases she's testified in, which we have on a good faith basis they simply can't lay. Now, Ms. Salter brought up classes, but we haven't seen any accreditations, any certifications, any transcripts, nothing that would indicate her proficiency in those classes or even how many she's taken, Your Honor.
Do you want to voir dire the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. In that case, we will permit a voir dire.
May I proceed?
Go for it.
All right, ma'am. I want to start by talking about your qualifications real quick, okay?
Sure, we can do that. Before we start, though, good evening. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, ma'am. So we can agree this case, it's about a boat explosion, right?
That's right, sir.
And we can agree you don't have a degree in electrical engineering, do you?
No, sir, I don't.
You're not a machine technician?
No, sir. Nobody at my firm is, actually.
You don't work on boats, ma'am, do you?
No, sir, I don't repair boats. However, investigating accidents related to boats, I do that quite frequently.
Well, ma'am, let's be clear. You are not a mechanic.
No, sir, I'm a consultant/meteorologist.
Like you said, ma'am, your degree, it's in meteorology, true?
That's right, sir.
And you mentioned classes a few moments ago, is that right?
That's right, sir. In addition to my degree in meteorology, I've taken several courses on identifying different types of explosions. It's especially relevant to my work at the firm because all of my cases involve accidents that might be related to weather. You gotta know how things explode because things are exploding quite a bit.
Well, ma'am, you haven't shown us any transcripts from those classes.
No, I wasn't asked to provide any transcripts. I could send some along. Would you like them?
Miss Salter will have a chance to bring that all out. Ma'am, you haven't shown us any certifications?
No, I wasn't asked to bring those today.
In fact, ma'am, these were undergraduate classes that you took.
Sure thing. What I like to think is a very reputable institution.
At this time, Your Honor, we'd like to re-raise our 702A objection.
Response, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
Your Honor, 702A only requires that the expert have scientific, technical, or specialized knowledge. In this case, she has both technical and scientific knowledge on both meteorology and what can cause different types of explosions. What 702A doesn't require is report cards on those classes, Your Honor. She has the experience, she has the knowledge, she's testified that she's worked in cases just like this one to determine if explosions were weather related.
Brief response, Your Honor.
Yes.
Undergraduate classes just don't cut it for 702A, especially when we haven't seen transcripts, Your Honor. I've taken classes in chemistry, but I can never go and testify about pharmaceutical products or anything in the realm of chemistry. It just wouldn't qualify me. We'd need more foundation that they simply can't lay for her to take that extra step and delve into what might have caused a boat explosion, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to overrule the objection. The court believes, particularly based off of the witness's professional experience, that we've cleared the 702A hurdle. Mr. Nemec, appreciating the unique time constraints of this jurisdiction, would you prefer that your voir dire be put onto the record for your cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, if we could publish it, that'd be great.
Okay, very good. Overruled.
All right, Ms. Subicki. You were telling us what it meant for your analysis, that you saw a lightning strike within 500 meters of Mr. Benton's boat.
Exactly, Miss Salter. Because that lightning strike could have been so close to Mr. Benton's boat, well, it could have hit Mr. Benton's boat. And if the lightning struck that boat, well, it could cause an explosion.
Besides your weather analysis, did you find any other evidence that suggests lightning could have struck the boat, ma'am?
Of course. When I was reviewing photos of the boat's electrical system post-explosion, I saw burn marks consistent with lightning strikes.
Hold on, ma'am. Earlier you mentioned that those electrical systems showed signs consistent with wires being tampered. And now you're saying the burn marks were consistent with lightning strikes. Is there any possibility it could have been both?
Absolutely. Well, I saw more signs consistent with a lightning strike, Because I didn't get a chance to look at that boat in person, I can't rule out either course.
Thanks, Miss Becky.
Sure
Nothing
thing.
further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good to see you again, Miss Ubicki.
It's nice to see you as well.
All right, I want to start off by talking a little bit about why you're testifying today. Ma'am,
Absolutely.
it's true. You testified in a case pretty similar to this one about 20 years back, right?
That's right, sir. I do a lot of boat cases. One of my first was about 20 years ago.
Well, just like in this case, a boat exploded.
That's right, sir.
Just like in this case, you had to determine whether it was intentional or an accident.
That's what I was asked to do, sir. That's right.
But ma'am, unlike this case, you found it was intentional.
That's right, sir. In that case, I did.
And ma'am, you realize now you were wrong.
Unfortunately, that's true. Evidence we didn't have access to during my analysis, a video of the boat exploding, surfaced after the case, and I found out my analysis had been incorrect.
Well, after you found out your analysis had been incorrect, ma'am, you felt guilty.
Sure, I didn't have access to all the information at the time, and then I made a conclusion. That's why it's so important to acknowledge what information you need and you don't need to make different types of conclusions.
The thing is, ma'am, you still think about that case.
Sure.
20 years later, you're still thinking about that wrong result.
That's true, sir.
And it's part of why you're testifying today.
A little bit, sir. I'm
Ma'am.
testifying because I was hired, mostly.
Well, ma'am, in your own words, you're here in part to right that wrong.
Sure, sir. Every case I do, I make sure to be extra thorough and not testify in court to a conclusion that I can't support. That's how I right that wrong.
I apologize, ma'am. Well, this time, you're testifying for the other side.
That's right, sir. This time I was hired by the defense.
Well, now you're testifying it could have been an accident.
Could have, sir. Sure.
I want to talk about if the evidence you collected supports that conclusion. Ma'am,
right.
You told us a few moments ago that you couldn't rule out the possibility of a lightning strike, right?
No, sir. Based on the information I had, couldn't rule it out.
Well, I want to talk about that in a little more depth. Could we pull Miss Ubicki's demo back up? All right, ma'am. Can you see that okay?
I sure can.
A couple minutes ago, you compared the lightning strike. You said it was kind of like Battleship, right?
Yes, so you caught on to my analogy.
Well, ma'am, the thing about Battleship is you don't always hit.
That's exactly true. It's exactly the same with lightning, actually.
That's right, ma'am. Sometimes you pick B2 and it's just a miss.
That's right, sir. I don't think the lightning is choosing squares, but it sort of works. That's true.
Well, ma'am, just like in this case, you aren't sure exactly where the lightning was.
No, sir. Based on the technological capabilities we meteorologists have right now, we narrowed that lightning strike down to a 500-meter radius.
Well, ma'am, like you said, 500 meters. Ma'am, that's over 2 city blocks.
Roughly, sure.
The fact is, you don't know what the conditions were like directly above that boat.
I can't say for certain, sir. No.
Well, let's take a look. Could we get Exhibit 1 up now? Can you see that okay?
I can.
All right, ma'am, that's the boat in this case, right?
That is, sir. I believe this was taken shortly after the explosion.
That's right, ma'am. It's the boat while it's on fire.
It is.
But if you look at that image closely, maybe you can't see any rain.
In this image, sir? No.
You can't see any dark black clouds, can you?
I mean, it looks a little grey to me, sir, but I'm not terribly sure.
Do you see any black clouds?
Black clouds, sir? In the sky? Not in this photo, no.
No rough water either?
Looks a little wavy.
Looks wavy, ma'am?
A little wavy. You see those little waves?
Do you see any white peaks?
No white peaks, no.
Well, ma'am, this image isn't all. We also have affidavits from witnesses in this case, right?
That's right, sir. I reviewed several reports and affidavits.
That's right, ma'am. You reviewed some eyewitnesses who were at the dock that day.
Yes, at the dock, that's right.
And ma'am, not a single one mentions lightning
Lightning? No.
or rain
No.
or rough water.
No, sir.
But ma'am, you also reviewed photos in your evaluation, right?
Yes, sir. I reviewed some photos of the boat's electrical system. That's right.
Well, those photos of the boat's electrical system, ma'am, you have to admit, they're consistent with tampering.
Exactly, sir. In this case, I couldn't rule out lightning or tampering. From those photos alone, they looked consistent with both.
Thank you, ma'am. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect from the defense?
Nothing further from the defense, Your Honor. We ask that this witness be allowed to step down.
Okay, Ms. Subicki, you're excused. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Is the defense ready to call its next witness?
We are. At this time, defense calls August Slaughter.
Okay.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Good evening. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm August Slaughter.
Where are you from?
I grew up in England, this small town called Putney. It's like near London, but I moved to the States for university and I've pretty much been here ever since.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an author. I studied English at uni and now I write novels. And I waitress a little bit on the side as well.
Miss Slaughter, do you know someone named Nikki Benton?
No, not really. I mean, I never met him. I knew his girlfriend, Abby. She's my ex, but I've never met Nikki.
Well, then I want to start from the beginning. How did you meet Abby Angela?
A dating app. A few years ago, I was fresh out of college. I was figuring out my life in a new city, and she took me out to sushi.
What was your relationship like?
I mean, it was perfect. I don't know. She was smart and funny and kind, and she played the cello beautifully, and I kind of fell in love with her on our first date. I mean, we fought, sure, but she was my whole world.
What'd you fight about?
Oh, money stuff mostly.
Why?
I mean, I was a freshly graduated, struggling author, and she has a house in the Hamptons. She came for a lot more money than I did, so she kind of bankrolled my life sometimes, I guess, and it could be a sore point.
Ma'am, why do you say it could be a sore point?
Look, Abby was really generous. I mean, it started with things like once I made handmade jewelry for one of her concerts, and she saw them and bought me diamond earrings that were more appropriate, things like that. And well, then
what?
Then she also started paying for bigger expenses, like when I couldn't pay for my rent, and she funded a lot of my career and didn't always seem happy about it.
And why do you say she didn't seem happy about it?
Well, a few months after paying for editors and proofreaders, she kept saying I needed to get a real job, that I was lazy, I hadn't published anything in 2 years, things like that.
Miss Slaughter, did you pay for anything in your relationship with Miss Angela?
Yeah, the wedding. I put all of my savings, $30,000 into booking our dream wedding.
Did Miss Angelo pay for any of that wedding?
No, she kind of said that I owed her after she paid for everything else in my life, but I was so grateful to her for everything that she did for me, so I did.
And did you ever have that wedding?
No. Abby ended things with me 2 days before we were supposed to walk down the aisle. I didn't realize that giving up on was what I had to do to be an author.
Have you ever spoken to Miss Angelo since your relationship ended?
No. No, she made pretty clear she didn't want to speak to me, and I kept my distance, even after she got into a new relationship.
Did you ever see Abby and her new boyfriend?
Yeah, I saw them on a date near what was supposed to be our wedding venue, actually.
And how did it feel when you saw your ex on a date near your old wedding venue?
Hot? And confused and upset. I mean, who brings their new boyfriend to their old wedding venue? It was strange, and I saw them there over and over again.
When's the last time that you saw Miss Angelo bringing her boyfriend to your wedding venue?
April 25th, last year. I was at work and I saw them through the window.
Where else did you go that day?
I went to a bar and then I went straight home.
Did you ever go to the dock?
No, I didn't.
And do you know what Abby Angelo and Nikki Benton were doing at the dock?
Yeah, I had had them booking a charter to get on a boat that afternoon.
And did you ever go on that boat?
No. No, I would never do anything to hurt Abby.
Did you know that Nikki Benton was going to be on that boat alone?
No, I had them booking the charter together. I thought Abby would be there with her.
Miss Slaughter, have you been in trial today?
Yeah, I have.
Did you ever observe any reason for Nikki Benton to get on that boat in order to escape Abby Angelo?
No, I don't know. I don't know anything about Nikki. I love Abby. I just want to get Abby back. I don't know.
Miss Slaughter, do you think that there's even a chance that
I don't know. I don't know anything about their relationship. I don't know why Nikki got on that boat. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Ma'am, from the moment you saw Nikki Benton, you wanted him dead.
I did. I really missed Abby, and I was jealous, and I was angry, and I was confused, and I hated him. I just wanted to be where he was.
That's a yes to my question?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
On the day that he died, you wanted Nikki Benton dead.
I did. I just wanted to be in his place.
And every moment in between, ma'am, from the day that you knew he existed until the day that he died, you wanted him dead.
That's true. I was angry and I was jealous, and I couldn't think what he could be giving Abby that I couldn't. I didn't even know that she liked men. I was hurt.
You got your wish, didn't you?
Yeah, Nikki's not alive anymore. That's what you mean.
Let's talk about why that was what you wanted. Because as you mentioned earlier, you dated Abby Angelo about 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The two of you got engaged.
We did.
And you started planning your life together.
Yeah, we did. The wedding, the kids, everything.
Right, but then 2 days before your wedding, well, it all comes crumbling down, right?
Yeah.
Because 2 days before your wedding, Abby Angelo dumps you.
She did. That's right.
And you're still not over it, are you?
No. No, Abby's my soulmate. She's the love of my life. She's the reason that America feels like home to me. I miss her. I can't imagine myself being with anyone else.
I mean, ma'am, earlier on Direct, you mentioned a wedding venue, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Ma'am, that wedding venue you're referring to is your and Abby's original wedding venue, right?
Yeah, it overlooked Blue Hawk Docks.
Right, ma'am. That wedding venue, you've had it booked for the last 3 years, right?
I have. That's true. I know it might be silly, but I have this hope that Abby will come back to me and she'll realize she's still in love with me and we can have our wedding like we were always supposed to.
Ma'am, you think it's silly, but you have that wedding venue booked for the next 3 years.
I do.
Because you still love her.
That's right, Mom. I do. I don't think I could ever not love her.
But she's moved on, hasn't she?
Objection at this time to speculation. May I be heard?
Sure.
Your Honor, Ms. Stinson's question is asking the witness to speculate into Abby Angelo's mindset as to whether or not Abby Angelo has truly moved on from the relationship.
Response?
Your Honor, this question doesn't call for speculation, and if I may make an offer of proof.
Sure.
The next questions I'll ask this witness will go towards the fact that Miss Angelo has a new boyfriend, implying that she's thus moved on, Your Honor.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, just because you're in a new relationship doesn't mean you've moved on from the old one. For this witness to testify that Abby Angelo has mentally moved on from the relationship, that's definitionally speculation. She can't speculate as to whether or not Abby Angelo still loves her or still does not love her, or whether or not she's still hung up on the relationship.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Let's stick to what the witness knows as opposed to what the witness believes others are feeling. It sounds like we don't need the witness's feelings to get the facts that the state has proffered. So I'll sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, Abby Angelo had a new boyfriend, right?
She did. Yeah.
And you were jealous of him.
Yes, I was.
You hated him.
I did.
You wanted him dead.
I did. I just wished he would disappear so that I could get her back.
Well, if that's what you wanted, let's talk about what you did. Because, ma'am, you knew that Nikki Benton was going to be at the dock the day that he died, right?
I did. Yeah, I worked nearby and I'd overheard him and Abby booking the charter.
Right, you knew that he was going to be on board that boat as well.
That's right.
And you knew that because you followed him around the week prior.
I saw Abby and I saw him and then they were on a date and they were near our old wedding venue and I just wanted to know what they were doing. I was jealous and hurting.
Hold on, ma'am. We're going to break that down in a second. Yes or no? You followed the two of them around.
I did. I followed them to the docks. I didn't speak to Abby. I kept to my word and I kept my distance, but I was curious. I wanted to know what they were doing.
And ma'am, you said something that you mentioned earlier, which is that you saw Abby at your old wedding venue. That's what you're telling the members of the jury?
She was at Blue Hawk Docks. It's right next to where our wedding was supposed to be.
Ma'am, the wedding venue is not Blue Hawk Dock, right?
No, it was this little restaurant right next to it that overlooked the docks.
You saw Abby at Blue Hawk Dock, right, ma'am?
I did. That's right.
And ma'am, after you learned that Nikki Benton was going to be on that boat at that dock, well, you decided to put yourself near that dock on the day that he died, right?
It wasn't about Nikki, actually. It was about Abby. But yeah, I had this hope that Abby would see me that day, maybe run into me, maybe remember how much she loved me. And so yeah, I switched shifts so I could be there.
That's a yes to my question, ma'am. You put yourself near the dock that day.
I did. That's right.
And ma'am, you told us you switched shifts to be there. That's not true, is it?
I'm not sure what you mean.
You paid a coworker to switch that shift with you, right?
Yeah, I did. So I swapped shifts with my friend.
Ma'am, despite telling the members of the jury that you paid a coworker to swap shifts with you, you're telling us you never actually went to the dock that day?
That's right. I didn't. I was not having a good day. And so I went to a bar instead.
Well, you've been here throughout trial, right, ma'am?
I have.
You heard the testimony of Kai Kalba, right?
I did.
You heard him say that he saw you at the dock that day.
I did hear that.
Ma'am, not just that he saw you at the dock that day, but that you gave him your ID?
I did hear him say that, ma'am. I don't know what he's talking about. I wasn't there. I don't know if he mistook me for someone else.
Well, hold on, ma'am. You're not an enemy of Mr. Calba, are you?
No, I don't really know the fellow.
You can't give us any reason why he would perjure himself on the stand about that, can you?
Objection once again to speculation.
Response, Your Honor?
No, I'm going to overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, you can't give us any reason why the deckhand would perjure himself on the stand to lie about you, can you?
No, I don't know anything about Mr. Calber, I'm sorry.
Ma'am, you don't know any other August Slaughters in town, do you?
No, I don't.
You can't give us any explanation for why he saw you at the dock that day.
No, I don't know what he saw, ma'am, but I wasn't there. I was at the bar and then I went straight home.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. We just ask that Ms. Slaughter be permitted to step down.
Okay, Ms. Slaughter, you may step down. Thank you. Anything further from the defense?
Nothing further from the defense. At this time, we rest our case.
Okay. Why don't we take 5 minutes? I've got 36 on my clock. If we could start closings at 41.
Sounds good with us.
Sounds good, Your Honor.
All right, great. All right, it is 41. Closing time. Are the parties ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor, the prosecution is here and ready to proceed.
Defense is back and ready to proceed as well, Your Honor.
All right, terrific. We'll first hear from the state.
Yes, Your Honor. I wanted him dead from the moment I saw him until the day that he died. That was what the defendant told me on the stand about 10 minutes ago. And I want you to think about how much hate it takes someone to wish death upon another every day, every hour, every minute of your life. Because you have to understand, this defendant, she's not like you and me. When we get broken up with, we call our moms. We eat Ben and Jerry's on the couch. For this defendant, that wasn't an option. For this defendant, it was obsession, it was motive, it was why. She took revenge on her replacement. And today? Well, it's why we've charged the defendant, August Slaughter, with murder. Now, what that meant is we had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant knowingly caused the death of Nikki Benton. And we did so by using the 3 facts that Mr. Nemec mentioned at the beginning of today's trial: the breakup, the blowup, and the bystander. So let's take those one by one. Let's start with that first fact, the breakup. Because today, well, you'll learn that the defendant was dumped the day before her wedding, and you'll learn that she just couldn't get over it. I mean, she told you she had a wedding venue booked for the last 3 years. And just in case, she's got it booked for the next 3. I mean, that's 6 years where the defendant has a wedding venue booked and she's not with Abby Angelo. Imagine you get a save the date for 2028 and you learn that the happy couple, well, they're not happy and they haven't been a couple since 2021. The defendant didn't just keep the venue. She kept a vendetta. She wanted Abby's new partner dead. So that takes us to the second fact, the blowup. Because today, the chief Coast Guard investigator came to the stand and he told you that that boat had been turned into a bomb. He told you that the fuel line had been severed in half, and he told you that there were tool marks. You learned that those tool marks, well, they could have been caused by a wire cutter. And who was the last person seen with those wire cutters? Well, it was the defendant. And where were those wire cutters last seen? At the dock. I mean, don't you think that if Nikki Benton had used those wire cutters to fake his own death on board that boat, that he would have brought the wire cutters on the boat with him? I mean, the reason that those wire cutters were found at the dock and not in the salvage of that boat is because the defendant used them. Because the defendant used them to sabotage that boat. So that takes us to the third fact, the bystander. Because today the defendant took the witness stand, looked you in your eyes, and she told you that she never went to the dock that day. But we know that's a lie. We know that's a lie because we called a deckhand who has no stake in this case. And he told you that he didn't just see the defendant at the dock. Well, he actually took her driver's license too. I mean, is there any other reasonable explanation for that testimony than the defendant just being at the dock? She lied because she has something to hide. We've met our burden today. We've shown you that the defendant took revenge on her replacement. But the defense, they tried to tell you a different story. They tried to tell you that Nikki Benton faked his own death, but something went awry when lightning hit him. Now, of course, as the prosecution, we have the burden today. But when the defense presents an alternative explanation, we're allowed to ask questions. And I've got a few. Because the first thing they showed you was a charter notice from the boat that day. They told you that because it said the words escape and it had a blanket, wine, and a snorkel, it meant that that Nikki Benton wanted to fake his own death. I mean, come on. If every person who said they wanted to Escape, when going on a scenic boat ride, was planning to fake their own death, you'd have to look into half my Instagram captions. If every person who brought a snorkel on board a boating expedition was going to fake their own death, well, half the people out on the lake this summer would have to be investigated. And then after they told you that Nicky Benton wanted to fake his own death, well, they told you that something went wrong because of a lightning strike. I mean, come on. The defendant must be the luckiest woman in the world for her death wish of 3 years to culminate in a lightning strike that happens to precisely hit her ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend's boat at the exact moment he's trying to fake his own death. Is that reasonable? Because what they had their expert come up here and tell you was that there was a weather storm, a lightning storm that day. And she told you that it was all about Battleship. But the thing is, just like Battleship, sometimes you're close, but it's not a direct hit. Because, they say that a picture says 1,000 words, and I think the one that Mr. Nemec showed Dr. Hubicki says just 6. No clouds, no storm, no lightning. And the thing is, the defense knows that the story they're telling, that it doesn't match up with the evidence we've seen today. Because there were 4 witnesses who were at or near the dock that day, the day that boat exploded, and not a single one of them could tell you that there was lightning, that there was thunder, that there were clouds. I mean, the thing about lightning and thunder is that it's pretty easy to see, and it's pretty easy to hear. But in the defense's story, what gets lost is the life of Nicky Benton. Because this case is about him. It's about a life cut short. He'll never spend another moment out on the ocean. He'll never spend another moment with Abby Angelo. He'll never spend another moment with the people who loved him the most. The defendant wants that to be the end of Nicky Benton's story, but it doesn't have to be. She took revenge on her replacement. Don't let her take the easy way out. Find her guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Closing argument for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
He planned to jump ship, but he didn't plan to sink. Nicky Benton has everything he needs. A cheap boat, wire cutters, a snorkel, and a plan. A plan to jump ship and escape. To escape a woman he just can't seem to get away from. But what he also has is a problem. Because just over the horizon, a storm is brewing. A storm that is about to turn what he thought would be a small spark into a full-blown explosion. Now, this story, it doesn't start on April 25th. It starts with Nicky and Abby. 2 people that the state would have you believe were madly in love, but what you heard today is that just couldn't be further from the truth. You heard how Abby would drag Nicky to the spot, the venue where she was supposed to marry her ex, over and over, constantly bringing up her ex-girlfriend. And you heard how uncomfortable that made Nicky. You heard how nervous Nicky really was around Abby. Nicky knew firsthand just how obsessed Abby could get over her exes, and he knew there was only one way to avoid suffering the same fate as August Slaughter. To jump ship and vanish. Now, a few days before Nicky Benton jumps ship, Nicky and Abby, they come to the dock together. When they're together, they say, oh, we want to take a romantic getaway. But when Nicky comes back, a few days later, when he's finally alone, we learn what kind of getaway he actually wants. He doesn't book a charter on Miss Thunstrom's boat. No, instead he opts for a cheaper one. The kind of boat that nobody would be surprised to hear goes down. He asked for 4 bottles of wine, no captain, and a snorkel to be on board, and he only writes one reason why. Escape. Now, I mean, the state wants you to believe he wanted to what? Escape his promotion? Members of the jury, I've never gotten promoted and said, oh, I better run away. The reason he was on that boat is because he had a plan to jump ship and disappear along with it. But what Nikki doesn't know is that there's a storm on the horizon, a storm that would quickly turn his plan deadly with just one bolt of lightning. And we did our best to show you all of that today. We brought you a meteorologist who told you about the storm that happened that night, about the high probability that Nikki's boat was struck with lightning, and members of the jury, she could have given you a definite answer. But the state, they did not let her see that boat. Why? Maybe because they knew it would confirm what she was telling you, that the accident was consistent with electrical tampering and a lightning strike. Now, what the state wants you to believe is that boat, it was tampered with, that fuel line, it was already cut before Nikki even left the dock. Members of the jury, I want you to really think about whether or not that actually makes sense. If someone had snuck onto that boat before Nikki had taken off, if they had cut the fuel line, if the boat had filled up with gas, why didn't the boat catch fire when Nikki started it? Because we know that at 2:30, Nikki, she starts the engine and she pulls out of the dock safely. If that gas cloud already existed, why didn't it ignite when the engine did? A matter of fact, why was Nikki able to drive the boat out into the middle of the river before it, just randomly caught fire? Members of the jury, there's only one explanation that makes sense. Nothing was wrong with the boat when it left the dock. It wasn't tampered with until after it took off, until Nikki set her plan into motion. And that's not the only thing that doesn't make sense about what the state is telling you. Because you heard from Miss Thunstrom, she said from the time Nikki's boat was there to the time Nikki's boat was gone, she was at the bar, and who was there that entire time? August Slaughter. But no, the state wants you to believe that August somehow teleported to the dock, signed in at 2:10, sabotaged the boat, and then what, just teleported back before anyone noticed? I mean, members of the jury, that doesn't make sense. And the only person that can even say they saw August on that dock, well, they don't have any evidence to back up their story. They can't say they saw August with tools, and they can't say they saw August get on the boat. The reason the state has no evidence of August being on that boat, members of the jury, is because she wasn't. That they want you to believe that she took revenge on her replacement, that she loved Abby so much she wanted to kill Nikki to win her back. Members of the jury, how would August even know that Nikki was going to be alone? If she loved Abby so much, why would she risk killing? The reason the state's story doesn't make sense is because it didn't happen. And that's a problem for the state. Because even though Miss Stinson wanted to spend her entire closing argument talking about our side of the story, you can't forget that the state is the one with the burden. And their burden is to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, members of the jury. That's the highest burden in our legal system, and it's high for a reason. It's high because being hung up on your ex and hating their new girlfriend isn't enough to get you convicted of murder. It's high because if the state wants to say that somebody killed another person, they actually have to prove it. And that's just not something they did today. I mean, really think about the evidence they brought and the witnesses they called. They brought you the very woman that Nikki wanted to escape from. And then they brought you a dockhand who said, I don't know if Nikki got on the boat. Then they brought you an investigator that said, yeah, the fuel line was cut, but also it needed fuel to get in the middle of the river. And well, the only one who was there to cut it, well, that would have been Nikki Benton. Members of the jury, how does any of that evidence add up to August Slaughter purposefully killing someone? The truth is, it doesn't. Because the only answer that actually makes sense is that Nikki Benton always planned to jump ship. She just didn't plan to sink. Find August Slaughter not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Rebuttal from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. I have one question. Why? Because the defense hasn't given you a single explanation based on evidence that actually came out in trial today for why Nikki Benton would fake his own death. But on the other hand, well, what you've seen in trial today is an obsessive ex-girlfriend who wanted Nikki Benton dead from the moment she knew he existed. And she got what she wanted. Find her guilty.
Thank you, counsel. All right. Great job, everyone. Adam, your camera's on. I will turn things over to you then.
Hi. Judges are going to submit their ballots by filling everything out. And when you have filled everything out, please come back on camera. Both teams can also come on camera if they want. See 5 of our judges. Anon, are you here?
I'm here, sorry. I just missed that the ballot was actually working. So all my scores are my comments. So I'm porting them over because of inept technology.
You're totally fine. We have them. Whenever you've put them on your comment sheet, feel free to come on cam. Yes. Great. We have all the ballots in. This was a wonderful final round. We will introduce the teams in just a moment, but first we want to hear from our lovely judges. So is there anyone who would like to go first? If not, I can pick someone at random.
I would, just because my dog is desperately wanting to go out. So if nobody else minds, I'll just a couple of brief comments. First off, amazing round, everyone. This did not feel like a rookie competition. This felt like an Orcs or NCT caliber top round. So just incredible job by all accounts. One thing I really liked, I'll pick out like favorite things from each team. I really like defense, just generally your strategy of not objecting to things that wind up helping your case. A rookie mistake is objecting just because something is objectionable. And for example, the evidence demonstrating that the engine cutting or what have you was intentional, you let in because that was your theory of the case too. And so many times we see rookie teams objecting just for the sake that they could without realizing, wait a minute, this evidence supports my case or it helps me. So just excellent job there. On the state, one of my favorite parts was just using the battleship demo against your opponents. A veteran move is just being able to take a demo, and like one of my favorite phrases in a round is, will opposing counsel, prefer a take down the demo? No, you can leave it up. You can leave it up is like, okay, game on. So terrific job there. My dog is crying. I'm going to log off of this, then log off. Wow, I've been talking way too long. Log on my phone. But terrific job, everyone. I will see y'all shortly.
Thank you. Let's go to Nick.
Hey, I'll be fast. I was just so glad to be able to judge this round. It was awesome. I'm a big mock nerd and current lawyer. I know it's always a long weekend of doing a tournament, so I'm sure you're tired. So I will try not to go on. I would really love to just rave about all the awesome stuff I saw. I'll try to keep it really short though, because I know it's a long weekend. Um, Great job. The thing I appreciated maybe the most was the intention to detail on what I know is a pretty short prep of a case. Things like the environmental, like witness background, storytelling. I really love that you guys thought about that and how the witness would be, where they would be, what their room would look like. Those little pieces of detail just show me that you guys are really digging into the case, thinking about the characters. The characterization I really loved for so many of the witnesses, the thought that went into like how would this person react to thinking about this thing, seeing this thing. So like, in both, the defendant and the, first plaintiff witness, those romantic emotions, the memory of the good times, looking back and smiling, those felt really genuine to me, and I really love when you balance that real feeling with like the weight of the seriousness of the case, bring that all together. I thought it was really beautiful. A lot more things I could say, but I'll try to write stuff down in written comments so you can take them into the season. But great job, everyone. Should be really proud. I was just really, really glad to get to watch it. So thank you.
Let's go to Elizabeth.
I will keep this short. I echo everybody else's comments. I would just say that the attorneys were all phenomenal, but I feel like this was definitely a great round for witnesses. I was laughing, I was smiling, and it was all very natural seeming, like when Mr. Kalba set off the effects on the Zoom. I thought that was, I mean, I think there's always a chance that doesn't land, but I thought it landed very well. So just little things like that. Everybody was doing that, weaving those little things in, and that's just so hard to do. And so it's just extra impressive when it's in a round like this where there isn't, this isn't something you've developed over a whole season. So just kudos to everybody. You guys did amazing.
Let's go to Anant.
Hi guys, fantastic round. Sorry, I'm on the Amtrak, so you might, other commuters from Philadelphia to Baltimore will see your wonderful performance. Great job overall. I will echo everybody's comments beforehand. I think I'll give one positive, one constructive. Positive, everybody knew what tone they were supposed to be going for, and echo Michael's comments that this was like a super, super high level round, which is not surprising to me given what we've seen from Rookie Rumble in the past. So Mock has a very, very exciting future. The one thing, actually two things, because I can't help myself. One thing I'll say is like everybody, just experiment with pauses a little bit more. I think witnesses, you can afford to take up as much space because like an interminable mock space is like, you can take 1 second and it sounds like you're taking forever. And then everybody has a little bit of like, the mock stutter, like that, and that. And now we're going to talk about, so just watch out for that. But otherwise, I mean, those being the only two things I can nitpick really says a lot. So thank you guys so much.
Let's go to Jess.
That was amazing. It's been a minute since I've been in a tournament, and I'm like, wow. It was really, really, really incredible. I was super impressed. I'm trying to think of like new areas to touch on that other judges haven't said, but I think for me, I was also super impressed by all the witnesses. But what changed from like really, really awesome to unbelievably great was more how you responded on the crosses for me. Staying in character, knowing that you don't necessarily have a dog in this fight, depending on what witness you are, really went a long way for me to continue your believability through the part that you can prepare and the part that you can't prepare as much. So witnesses got extra points from me if they felt that they maintained that natural groundedness in their cross. And there was, I thought, really great storytelling between openings and closings. I think sometimes I would have reversed the order of what to highlight first and what to add on as like an additional thought. But they were really, really impressive. And I was also very impressed with the objections. Yeah, I mean, I had a great time. I was smiling for 3 hours here. So great job. Super impressive.
And while we're on Jess, Jess is making a mock trial movie. So we are going to be posting about that on the AMTA accounts. But everyone who is both watching here on the Zoom and at home, please be sure to check that out. The Kickstarter is up, and we will be promoting that very soon after.
Thank you so much. And yes, it's for high school, so not anything close to this extremely impressive level. So hopefully if you were part of mock in high school, to go back to your sweet, earnest beginning roots, because you all are extremely polished. Thank you so much. Appreciate the shout out.
Of course. Dennis, let's go to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be the mean one because, of course, I am. This was a really great round, and that's why I'm going to like nitpick y'all, because I could sit here and tell you you're all are great, and like you've heard it. Let's be clear, you are. Defense, I didn't buy the theory. I thought it was really whack. Like, I didn't see how we really got to this point of somebody is trying to kill themselves, and then, oh, by the way, there's an accident. Penelope, I think you did an excellent job of really coming at that in the close. With that, the thing that I think everybody really needs to work on is stop saying ma'am every single question, because literally you're saying it every single question to the point where I was counting it more than actually like watching what you were saying. So just watch the filler words. Like, y'all are better than filler words to have. That being said, like everybody said, it was a really great trial. My ballot's close, and congrats to whoever wins.
And last, but certainly not least, I think last, unless I miss someone else, Joe, I believe you're last.
Yeah, no, thanks, Adam. First of all, like, not only are amazing, my understanding is y'all are like the first couple of years of competing. Like, that blows my mind. And I know we all say it, but like, take a moment. Like, y'all are crazy good. My comments and scoring range are going to be using the wide range, and I focus most on constructive stuff because you all are just like, if I was like that as a sophomore or a first year, oh my gosh, the world would be a difference. Really incredible round. Just a couple things I want to highlight and two really constructive pieces really quickly. My constructive stuff, one, attorneys careful on nodding or like laughing along or smiling with a witness's answer. Two reasons. One, it can be considered you testifying, but also from the mock perspective, right? Like, let us laugh and enjoy the character, right? When we see someone else's like laugh tracks in sitcoms, right? When they start going off, you kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to laugh here. Got it. Like, let the witness take that moment. The second thing is on cross, careful with the one questions too many. You got your facts out. That's what close is for. Argue why the facts meet your theory. I think there were times, and I noted them, that you asked a question that was like more about like an opinion or like an argument you wanted to make on close. A couple things I just want to highlights of the round for me. On the prosecution side, Penelope, I thought your close was absolutely fantastic. Really, really relatable and easy to understand. Fantastic. And Kobe, I thought your cross and objections were really good. I think you were listening well, and I really appreciated that. On defense, Isa, I loved your direct style. You ask one, like you just ask simple questions. It's easy to follow. There's no mockiness to it. It's so refreshing to listen to that. And then I'm so sorry. I think it's Avery. Is that the expert on defense? Am I right? Yeah. I thought the way you just handled like voir dire and the way you kept your composure was so believable and like great. Like, it's really hard to do that as an expert. And you had me like gripped in for every answer you're given. So just fantastic round. Y'all rock. And always let me know if you have any questions after the round, certainly. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you all. Are our reps back? I believe they are. We have some results. But before we get to them, I want to introduce our two teams. We're going to start with the prosecution. Prosecution is Team 6 from University of Chicago. The University of Chicago won 15 ballots and tied 1 ballot. They went undefeated, just one single tie. And their team, I'm going to apologize if I mess up any of your names, but their team is made up of Anderson Lynch, Charles Potter, Kobe Ackerman, Melanie Zhang, Penelope Stinson, Polina Koprina, Samuel Morse, and Zachary Nemec. Congratulations on making it this far. Our defense is Team 42. Team 42 is made up of 3 different schools, made up of Emory, Georgia Tech, and Georgia. And that team consists of Isaac Kidway, Amaya Salter, Avery Dollins, Elena Dominic, Hannah Hansford, Nayantra Chandrasekhar, and Ruby Kelly. They went undefeated 16-0 in the preliminary rounds. Combined, these 2 teams lost a half a ballot, 1 tie the entire time. And so you should all be very proud of yourselves for getting here. And from both the ballots and our perspective as reps, this was an extremely close round. This was a split decision, but the winner of Rookie Rumble 2025 is Defense Team 42. Congratulations. Thank you all for watching. We will see you all next year, and good luck at all your tournaments this year. Can't wait to see you guys.
Congrats, guys. You were amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much. We love you guys.
Thank you guys so much. You guys
you.
are
Oh
amazing.
my guys. Thank
You
you.
guys are so incredible. It was so much
And
fun
thank
to
you
meet
to
you.
Chicago.
Thank you so much.
We love Chicago.
Thank you.
We love you guys so much.